Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive orientation for newly elected lawmakers. Vice chairs emphasize governance and accountability. Deadly windstorms claim 2 lives and leave several injured in eastern Nepal. Weather Department issues fresh warnings. Nepal's total public debt climbs to 2.87 trillion rupees this fiscal year. National debt now accounts for over 47%. Israel claims assassination of Iran's national security chief and Basij's commander in Tehran strikes. Iran yet to respond. Taliban officials claim hundreds dead after airstrike hits Kabul drug treatment center. Pakistan denies hitting health facility. And tonight, decisive Champions League knockout match on the schedule. Chelsea and Manchester City fight for survival against continental leaders. Good evening, I am Shivani Thapa-Bosnath and this is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News. We're coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere it is 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. The details now. The Rashtriya Swatantra Party launched a 2-day training for its newly elected members of parliament. Vice Chair Dol Prasad Aryal urged them to act responsibly, uphold public trust, fight corruption and ensure good governance, highlighting the need for greater accountability due to past government's missteps.
टोटोको निर्वाचनमा हामीले 182 सिट जित्दै गर्दा हामीले राष्ट्रिय स्वतन्त्र पार्टीका नेताहरूले अनि नीलो हाम्रो घण्टी चुनाव चिन्हले अनि यहाँ उपस्थित भएका हामी प्रतिनिधिहरूले जित हासिल गर्यौं। तर यो देशले जित्न बाँकी छ र जनताले जित्न बाँकी छ। त्यसकारणले पनि आजको यो कार्यक्रम महत्त्वपूर्ण छ। हामीले देशले जित्ने गरी र ती दूरदराजका सबै नेपाली नागरिकले जित्ने गरी सबै नेपालीलाई अब भने मेरा लागि सरकार छ भनेर महसुस गराउने सरकार निर्माण गरेर डेलिभरीमा र डेभलपमेन्टमा सुशासन कायम गर्न र भ्रष्टाचारको अन्त्य गर्न हामीले काम गर्नुपर्नेछ।
Another Vice Chair Swarnim Wagle emphasized the importance of preserving the trust and public confidence gained through nearly a 2/3 majority with 48% of the votes.
हामी विधायक सांसदको भूमिकामा छौं। सांसदहरूले के गर्नुपर्ने हो, मूल काम के हो, सहायक कामहरू के हुन् भन्नेमा हामी स्पष्ट हुनुपर्नेछ। आज मलाई लाग्छ एक्सपर्टहरूले विज्ञहरूले त्यसमा पनि प्रकाश पार्नुहुनेछ। मूल काम हामी कानुन बनाउन आएका हौं। वी आर लॉ मेकर्स। कानुन बनाउन आएका हौं र सरकारको कामको समीक्षा गर्ने, अनुगमन गर्ने, निगरानी गर्ने हामी वाचडॉग पनि हौं। हाम्रै एकमना सरकार बन्दै गर्दा पनि तपाईहरुले औलो ठड्याउनु पर्छ, खबरदारी गर्नुपर्छ, बाटो भिरायो कि भनेर।
The two vice chairs inaugurated the training program by ringing a bell. Party chairman Ravi Lamithane and senior leader Balendra Shah abstained the inauguration. The program is scheduled to provide orientation to the new lawmakers on topics such as parliamentary practices, legislative processes, policy formulation, and the roles of parliamentary committees. Following the House of Representatives election held on March 5th, 2026, a total of 182 RSP lawmakers were elected, including 125 from direct seats and 57 through the proportional representation system. An extreme weather system bringing hailstorms and heavy rain has swept across Nepal, leaving several people dead, others injured and causing widespread damage. Farmers in western Gulmi report significant crop losses, while in other areas the rainfall has offered some relief, helping preparations for the planting season. Rojina Rai reports.
Recent extreme weather in Nepal, including powerful windstorms and hail, has caused widespread damage, claimed lives and affected infrastructure as well as crops that were ready to harvest or plant. Authorities have begun assessing the destruction and preparing response efforts in the aftermath. A severe windstorm caused significant damage in several districts, with Dhankuta, Udaipur in the east and Butwal, Gulmi among other western districts the hardest hit. The federal capital Kathmandu also suffered extreme weather pattern affecting daily lives and infrastructure damages. In the east, storm struck Katari in Udaipur district on Monday evening, killing 2 people and injuring 6 others. The storm uprooted trees and caused extensive destruction in the area. The victims have been identified as 64-year-old Birendra Chaudhary and 49-year-old Meena Maya Tamang. Chaudhary was killed when a fallen tree crossed a roadside grocery shop along the Madan Bhandari highway, while Tamang lost her life after being struck by a falling tree branch while tending her livestock. Several others, including a young child, sustained injuries and receiving treatment at the hospital. Dhankuta district also experienced major disruption as strong winds knocked down trees and power poles, leaving many households without electricity. Repairing teams from the Nepal Electricity Authority are working to restore services, prioritizing major transmission lines.
Nepal's public debt has risen sharply in the first 8 months of the current fiscal year, increasing by more than 204 billion rupees. The total national debt now stands at 2.87 trillion rupees, equivalent to around 47% of the country's gross domestic product. Government figures show external debt at 1.53 trillion rupees, while domestic borrowing has reached 1.34 trillion. Officials say more than 2/3 of the domestic borrowing target has already been met, but external borrowing remains significantly below the plan. Meanwhile, debt servicing costs are continuing to climb, with over 242 billion rupees spent on principal and interest payments so far this year. You're with the Primetime News here on NTV World. We will be back after a short break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. A key section of the Mugling-Pokhara Road expansion project in Nepal has been completed and handed over to the government. The 41-kilometer stretch linking Abu Khaireni to Jamune in Tanohu district was delivered on Monday. The road has been widened to 4 lanes in built-up areas, with expansion carried out to improve connectivity along the route. Project officials say the contractor will remain responsible for maintenance over the next 5 years, in line with the agreement. The project has been funded through a loan of more than 6.3 billion rupees from the Asian Development Bank. Authorities in Nepal have launched an investigation into the death of a man inside the Bardia National Park. 33-year-old Top Bahadur Khatri is believed to have died after entering the protected area earlier this month. Police say he was part of a group of 6 men who allegedly entered the park illegally for poaching. The others returned days later and reported his death to the family before leaving the area. Investigators say the cause of death remains unclear, with initial suspicions pointing to either a dispute within the group or an accidental shooting. A joint team from the Nepal Army and Nepal Police is now using drones to search for the body, while efforts are underway to locate the 5 other men. The domestic market in Nepal saw a slight increase in the prices of gold and silver on Tuesday. Gold and silver prices have edged higher in Nepal's domestic market of late. According to the Federation of Nepal Gold and Silver Dealers Association, the price of hallmark gold rose slightly to 309,900 rupees per tola on Tuesday. Silver prices also increased, reaching 5,335 rupees per tola. The gains reflect broader trends in international markets, where gold and silver prices have seen modest movement. These fluctuations in precious metals are being influenced by global economic signals and ongoing geopolitical uncertainty. Meanwhile, Nepal's stock market closed higher on Tuesday, with the benchmark index posting modest gains. The Nepal Stock Exchange Index rose by 13.51 points to settle at 2,812.34. Trading activity remained strong, with hundreds of companies participating in more than 100,000 transactions, generating a turnover exceeding some 12 billion rupees. Reedy Power Company Limited led the market in terms of transaction value, while Shivashri Hydropower Limited recorded the highest trading volume. More than 34 million shares were exchanged, reflecting continued investor activity in the secondary market. International news is up next. We will return after a short break. Do stay with us. In the international headliner, Israel has launched a wave of strikes on Tehran and Beirut on Tuesday, while attacks in Baghdad drew neighboring Iraq deeper into the Middle East war that has sparked economic turmoil across the globe. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, said that Iran's security chief, Ali Larizani, and the head of its paramilitary Basij force had been killed in a strike.
הותקלתי כעת על ידי הרמטכ"ל שמזכיר המועצה לביטחון לאומי לריג'ני וראש הבסיג' וגוף הדיכוי המרכזי של איראן שממונה על הטבח במפגינים חוסלו הלילה.
Larizani was last seen in public at a Quds Day march in Tehran on Friday. Iran has not confirmed whether he has been killed or injured. Meanwhile, drones and rockets struck the U.S. embassy located in Baghdad's Green Zone, marking the second attack on the diplomatic compound since the outbreak of the current conflict in the Middle East. No casualties were immediately reported, and U.S. officials said security forces are investigating the incident. The U.S. embassy in Iraq was subjected to at least 5 rounds of attacks from Monday evening to the early hours of Tuesday. The Green Zone in central Baghdad houses Iraqi government buildings and the parliament and several foreign missions, including the U.S. Embassy. The heavily fortified zone has been a frequent target of rocket and mortar fire in recent years. Meanwhile, the global oil prices extended gains today as the ongoing Middle East conflict and disruption at the Strait of Hormuz fueled fears of tightening supplies, with Brent crude up about 2.5% to $102.69 a barrel, and U.S. West Texas Intermediate rising roughly 2.6% to $95.92. The rise reflects mounting concerns over supply bottlenecks through the strategic oil shipping route amid attacks on tankers and regional instability, underlining the market's sensitivity to geopolitical risk. increased volatility pushed prices above key psychological levels, prompting traders to price in elevated risk premiums if disruptions persist. Meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to call on other nations, particularly NATO allies, to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil shipping route. Trump warned that any disruption could trigger a global energy crisis and urged coordinated international patrols to ensure safe passage for commercial vessels. Dozens of people are feared dead or injured at a drug treatment center in Afghanistan's capital after an airstrike that the Taliban government blamed on Pakistan. The center in Kabul was hit on Monday evening, killing some people and injuring others, the government spokesperson said on social media platform X. A Taliban government spokesperson claimed the death toll reached at least 400, but the figures have not been independently verified. Pakistan denied striking any health facility, saying it precisely targeted military installations and terrorist support infrastructure in Kabul and the eastern province of Nangarhar. Some 2,000 people were being treated there, according to officials at the facility, who believe there could be hundreds of casualties. In another key development, U.S. President Donald Trump says he has asked China to delay his summit with Xi Jinping at the start of April by around a month while he deals with the war in Iran. The summit, due to take place in Beijing from March 31st to up to April the 2nd, was expected to cover economic ties and strategic issues between the two countries. Trump told reporters from the Oval Office that he has asked Beijing to delay the meeting by a month or so he can oversee U.S. strategy on the Iran conflict, which he described as demanding his presence at home.
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here, I feel. And so we've requested that we delay it a month or so. And I'm looking forward to being with them. We have a very good relationship, but because of the war, there's no tricks to it either. It's not like, oh, gee, I'm waiting. It's very simple. We got a war going on.
Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian has said that China and the United States are in communication with each other regarding the date of President Donald Trump's China visit. Lin said this responding to an inquiry about certain media reports that Trump said his visit to China might be postponed if China doesn't provide assistance in escorting the Strait of Hormuz.
我们注意到美方已就媒体的不实报道 公开作出澄清，表示有关报道是完全错误的，强调访问与霍尔木兹海峡通航问题无关。
We shall continue looking further on the international front when we come back. Do stay with us. Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Shangang has said senior officials from China and the United States concluded in-depth and constructive economic trade consultations for 2 days in Paris. Li added the two sides agreed that stable bilateral trade relations benefit both countries and the global economy. Discussions covered tariffs, investment promotion, and mechanisms to manage disputes. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that the talks aim to prevent retaliation and maintain stability ahead of President Donald Trump's planned visit to Beijing. The sessions also addressed lingering U.S. trade measures against China, including Section 301 investigations, import surcharges and market restrictions. Chinese officials urged Washington to remove unilateral tariffs and promised to safeguard China's economic interests. Both sides have agreed to explore a bilateral cooperation mechanism, continue consultations and strengthen dialogue to promote sustainable, stable economic and trade relations. Tens of millions of Indonesians are embarking on their annual Eid al-Fitr exodus, traveling by motorcycle, car, plane and boat to their hometowns across the archipelago. The mass movement, starting Wednesday in the world's largest Muslim majority country, is expected to strain transportation networks, airports, seaports and highways as families reunite for the holiday. Authorities have deployed additional police and transport personnel to manage traffic and ensure safety during the unprecedented migration. Officials have also urged travelers to plan ahead and exercise caution amid heavy congestion and heightened accident risks. Sri Lanka has declared every Wednesday a holiday for public institutions to conserve fuel as the island nation grapples with possible shortages in the wake of the US and Israel's war with Iran. Authorities picked Wednesday instead of Friday as the additional off day so that government offices would not be closed for 3 days in a row. But it will not affect state institutions providing essential services such as the health and immigration authorities, officials say. Motorists are also now required to register for a national fuel pass, which rations the amount of fuel that people can buy. This is the latest in a series of belt-tightening measures undertaken by Asian countries since the war choked off the Strait of Hormuz, which used to carry millions of barrels of oil from the Gulf into the region. Nearly 90% of all the oil and gas flowing through the strait last year was bound for Asia, which is the world's largest oil importing region. Likewise, Cuba is facing widespread, prolonged blackouts and severe fuel shortages as the island's national power grid collapses amid a tightening US-imposed oil blockade, plunging millions into darkness and disrupting essential services such as hospitals, transport and water systems. The crisis intensifies weeks after US forces captured Venezuela's president, cutting off the Cuban government's main oil supplies and leaving the country struggling to import fuel, according to officials. Cuban authorities have repeatedly linked the outages and energy scarcity to US pressure as talks continue with Washington on easing the deepening humanitarian and economic emergency. Time for the sporting headliners now. The second leg of the UEFA Champions League round of 16 is being held today and tomorrow as Europe's top clubs prepare for decisive knockout clashes. In today's first match, Portuguese club Sporting faces Norwegian club Bodø Glimt in what promises to be a tightly contested fixture. In a series of high-profile matchups, English club Chelsea takes on defending champions Paris Saint-Germain later tonight. Likewise, another English club Manchester City meets Spanish club Real Madrid in another closely watched clash tonight. Kylian Mbappe is returning from injury as Real aim to eliminate Manchester City in the Champions League last 16 second leg. Another key fixture tonight sees German club Bayer Leverkusen face English side Arsenal. The results of these second leg matches will determine which clubs advance to the quarterfinals of Europe's most prestigious club competition. Two Iranian women footballers train with the Australian club Brisbane Roar after seeking asylum in the country. 7 members of Iran's football delegation competing in the Women's Asian Cup sought sanctuary in Australia last week after they were branded traitors at home for refusing to sing the national anthem at their opening game. Only 2, Fateme Pashandide and Atife Rameza Nashade, remain in Australia after the others changed their minds and decided to return. The pair are continuing their professional development with Brisbane Roar while navigating the asylum process. Their case has drawn international attention, highlighting the challenges faced by athletes who speak out against political pressures at home. A-division clubs in Nepal have intensified their protest against the All Nepal Football Association, staging a sit-in at the ANFA headquarters in Saddobato. The clubs accused the football governing body of unilaterally scheduling the Martyrs Memorial A-Division League to begin on 13th of April without their consent or adherence to previous agreements. Since Monday, the clubs have been demanding the fulfillment of a 7-point list of grievances, claiming that ANFA has failed to honor past commitments. Although talks were held between club officials and ANFA leadership yesterday, no agreement was reached, leading to continued demonstrations. This unrest follows concerns from the Nepal Football Players Association regarding the lack of regular football activities. Furthermore, controversy surrounds ANFA's upcoming leadership elections, scheduled for 26th of March in Jhapa, which reportedly lack the necessary approval from the National Sports Council. And this brings us to the end of this news bulletin. But before we wrap up, a reminder of the headlines. Rashtriya Swatantra Party begins intensive orientation for newly elected lawmakers. Vice chairs emphasize governance and public accountability. Deadly windstorms claim 2 lives and leave several injured in eastern Nepal. Weather Department issues fresh warnings. Nepal's total public debt climbs to 2.87 trillion rupees this fiscal year. National debt now accounts for over 47% of total GDP. Israel claims assassination of Iran's national security chief and Basij commander in Tehran strikes. Iran yet to respond. Taliban officials claim hundreds dead after airstrike hits Kabul drug treatment center. Pakistan denies hitting health facility. And tonight, decisive Champions League knockout match on the schedule. Chelsea and Manchester City fight for survival against continental leaders. And that's it for this edition of NTV World Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal Standard Time. To join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website, nepaltelevision.com. I am Shivani Thapa Bosna. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting, PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World. Facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries. Where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Welcome to another episode of The Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and the highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscapes. I am Rosina Rai, and we will be leading you into this journey every week. Welcome to the show. Tonight we have beautiful reports on the blooming of rhododendrons, Tharu Holi Festival, the fading tradition of Balan culture, and an inspiring story of women's progress from Sangza district of Nepal. Let's begin with the Laliguras rhododendron blossoms in the hilly and Himalayan regions of Nepal. Their vibrant blossoms create a floral paradise that attracts tourists from near and far. This is the first week of March, and across the high hills and mountains of Nepal, a breathtaking spectacle is unfolding. The hills are alive with the vibrant blossoms of the national flower, the rhododendron, known as Laliguras. From March through April, Nepal's highland transformed into a painter's palette, as 32 species of rhododendrons burst into bloom, painting the forest in sets of red, pink, and white. The full bloom in the hilly and Himalayan regions, especially in places like Gulmi, Bhojpur, Thankuta, Ghorepani, Langtang, Rara, and Kanchenjunga national parks, along with the Kathmandu hills, is nothing short of mesmerizing. For travelers and nature enthusiasts, it is a must-see paradise on earth. In western Nepal, the forest of Gulmi Resunga turned into a floral wonderland, dominated by the brilliant red of the rhododendrons. Visitors flock from near and far, some to marvel at the sight, others to capture it in photographs. The fiery crimson flowers symbolizes vitality, beauty, and renewal, making the rhododendrons forest of Nepal a living emblem of the nation. Nepal's rhododendron bloom are unique, the flowers changing color according to elevation, deep red at lower altitudes, gradually shifting to pink and pure white as one climbs up. These vibrant forests brighten the rugged mountain landscape and offer a profound cultural connection. However, there is a shift in the bloom season this year. What once blossomed in late February now appears as early as January, a subtle signal of rising temperatures and climate change. Many of the old majestic rhododendron trees are drying up, and with limited conservation efforts, the future of Laliguras in Gulmit district and other hilly regions of the country are uncertain. Celebrating their bloom is beautiful, but protecting them is essential. These hills of red must continue to enchant generations to come. Have you ever heard of Holi, the festival of colors lasting for more than a month? Yes, you heard right. In the Rana Tharu settlements of Nepal's far western region, the celebrations typically continue for 1 month and 8 days. Here is a report of longest Holi celebrations by Bijeda Bhandari.
The Rana Tharu community in Nepal's far western plains celebrates Hori, similar to the Festival of Colors Holi, with distinctive traditions that unfold over several weeks. The early phase of the festival is known as Jinda Hori. From the full moon day of Nepali month of Magh to the full moon of Phagun, community members gather at night to dance in groups to the rhythm of drums and madal. Young people and elders alike take part, turning the celebrations into a lively communal gathering. After the ritual of Holika Dahan, when a bonfire is lit to mark the burning of the demoness Holika, the second phase called Mari Hori begins. Mari Hori, meaning dead Hori, continues for another 8 days. During this time, people wear traditional attire and travel around villages during the day performing Hori dances. The final day of Mari Hori is known as Khaktehara, which holds special significance. On Khaktehara Day, villagers gather early in the morning to break a ceremonial mud pot filled with symbolic items such as eye coal, vermilion, and mud marbles woven into wooden picks. The pot is then taken to the outskirts of the village and shattered according to ritual, symbolizing the end of evils and diseases within the community.
दाह संस्कार गर्ने ल हाम्रो नगर चाहिँ राम्रो होस् र यो जुन दुख पीडा जुन अब यताउता जुन रोग बिमारी छ नि यसलाई सबै लिएर देवी माता लिएर जानु होला भनेर हामी चाहिँ विदाई गरेर पठाउँछौँ.
Afterward, families invite relatives, friends, and companions to share traditional sweets and dishes. However, according to tradition, Hori is considered fully concluded only after the Charai festival is observed later around mid-March. For the Rana Tharu community, Hori is celebrated as a symbol of the victory of truth over falsehood. The festival is also believed to strengthen unity, brotherhood, and cultural identity within the community. Recognizing its cultural importance, local governments have also been supporting traditional costumes and cultural programs during the celebrations. For the Rana Tharu community, Hori is not only a joyful festival, but also a symbol of tradition, culture, and social harmony, as this centuries-old practice continues to enrich the cultural identity of Nepal's far western region.
Until a few decades ago, Balan, also known as the Brahmin dance, was a vibrant and integral part of Hindu Nepali culture. However, with the younger generations showing little interest in learning and continuing the tradition, Balan now faces the risk of gradual disappearance from Nepal's cultural landscape. More in this report. Balan, or Brahmin dance, has long remained a unique and fascinating cultural attraction throughout Nepal. It is a traditional Nepali devotional folk performance that combines singing, storytelling, and rhythmic dance deeply rooted in the Brahmin and Kshatriya communities across the country. Predominantly performed in Nepal's hilly region, Palpa, Dailek, Doti, Sangza, among others. Through its songs, Balan narrates the divine acts and incarnation of Hindu deities since the time of creation. However, this tradition, primarily devoted to glorifying Hindu gods and goddesses, is rarely performed these days and is on the verge of disappearance. Cultural experts stress the influence of modernization and the declining enthusiasm among youth to continue this cultural legacy has contributed to the gradual disappearance of this Hindu tradition. The performance draws from sacred Hindu texts such as the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata, Ramcharitra, Krishna Charitra, and the stories of the 10 incarnations of Lord Vishnu, making it a deeply religious performance. It is performed by an expert Balan troupe, locally known as Agara. A typical Balan troupe consists of around 25 members who sing and dance together. The performance begins with an arati, during which deities are worshipped and invoked through devotional songs. Balan is traditionally performed overnight during religious ceremonies such as Satyanarayan Puja, Bala Chaturdasi, and Ekadasi. Occasions that involve a night-long devotional vigil dedicated to worship. In recent years, younger generations have increasingly drifted toward modern entertainment and Western-influenced music, leading to a loss of interest in traditional folk practices. Cultural activists are calling for its preservation through inclusion in school curriculum and promoting through local festivals.
We are at the end of today's program, but before we wrap up, we bring you a report from the hinterlands of Nepal's Sangza district, where women are proving unstoppable despite geographical, political changes and limited opportunities. They are empowered and inspiring thousands of women in remote places of the country.
Rural women's empowerment in Nepal is undergoing a gradual transformation marked by notable legal political progress. Despite these advancements, many women in rural areas continue to face deep-rooted patriarchal norms and limited economic autonomy. However, after a long struggle for equality, visible changes are emerging in the lives of women in remote parts of the country, including Sangza, Nepal. In recent years, women who were once largely silent have begun to challenge traditional boundaries. Once confined mainly to household chores, many are now actively engaged in economic activities and administrative roles. Today, numerous women in the district have become skilled and confident through vocational training programs introduced by local governments and other stakeholders. Training in sewing, weaving, mushroom farming, and the cultivation of other cash crops under the Rural Women's Empowerment Initiative has helped transform their daily lives. Their efforts are increasingly meeting local demand for agricultural produce, locally stitched clothing, and handicrafts. In many communities of Sangza, rural women are now forming the backbone of the agricultural sector. At the same time, the growth of women-led cooperatives and microfinance initiatives is promoting financial independence and strengthening women's role in household decision-making. Across the district's 11 local administrative units, this shift is becoming more visible as women participate more actively in the workforce. Not long ago, many women hesitated even to speak about their rights. Today, the reality is changing. These initiatives are not only generating income but also enabling women to contribute financially to their families, giving them a stronger voice within their households and communities. Supported by the policies that promote gender equality, women are increasingly visible and active in politics, administration, education, health, business, and community leadership.
Beyond the cities and their headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories are shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website www.nepaltelevision.com, social media handles, and our YouTube channel also. I'm Rosina Rai. Thank you for watching NTV World. Goodbye for now.
Pashupatinath is located in the eastern part of Kantipur city, approximately 5 kilometers away from Bagmati River. During the Lichavi period, the area surrounding Pashupatinath was known for animal rearing. This region includes Duwasthali, Guveshwari, Gaurighat, Chaba Hill, Ganeshtan, and Kutuwali, all of which are part of the Pashupatinath area. In 1979 AD, UNESCO designated Pashupatinath as a World Heritage Site. The blessings of Pashupatinath have been revered since ancient times, indicating the site's significance long before the Lichavi dynasty. The presence of Jyotirlinga, a sacred representation of Lord Shiva, is mentioned in one of the ancient texts, highlighting its historical and religious importance. In the Gopal Raj dynasty, King Supuspadev described Pashupatinath as Varna Vyavastha. Following Supuspadev, every subsequent king incorporated the name of Pashupatinath within their own names. King Vaskar Dev offered 3 kosh to Pashupatinath, Brishdev presented a Trishul, Dharmadev contributed a Brishjos, and Narendra Dev offered various kosh made from different materials. Finally, Jayadev offered a lotus to Pashupatinath. In 1473 BS, Jyoti Malla renovated Pashupatinath. The priest Nityananda initiated the removal of the 3-story structure of Pashupatinath and reduced it to a single story. Queen Ganga, the consort of Shiva Singh, had the Bhasa Vamsawali written, which is still present today. During the Malla dynasty, the offerings made by the kings to Pashupatinath can still be seen today. Among these offerings, Lord Shiva at Pashupatinath received a copper roof and chadi and kamal. Finally, King Jai Singh presented a gold-made mekhla and a grand jatra was conducted. The temple's extraordinary design is attributed to the cumulative contributions of successive kings, each leaving their mark by adding distinctive elements to its architecture. This rich history of royal patronage is the primary factor contributing to the exceptional and intricate design of this revered temple.
The political landscape of Nepal has just undergone a seismic shift. March 5 elections have delivered a historic mandate for the country. Rashtriya Swatantra Party secured a staggering supermajority, completely redefining the balance of power and sweeping aside traditional vanguards. Meanwhile, grassroots movements like newly formed Shram Sanskriti Party are also making their national debut. To help us evaluate what it means for the future of our republic, we are joined today by Pranav Kharel, who is a prominent sociologist and a sharp political analyst. He is known for his deep reading of Nepal's democratic transitions. Welcome to NTV World Inside. It's very good to have you here.
Thank you, Saraji.
We've been through a vacuum of a period, and it was, if you agree, a testing period for the country as well. But the Sushila Karki-led government has delivered what they promised, an election which was largely free and fair, I believe. How big of a success would you say it was?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me. I agree with you. In the aftermath of the September protest last year, where what we saw, we collectively as a nation had thought that we are going off guard. But Sushila Karki-led government, for a better reason, has made sure that we are back on track by holding elections on time. And the mandate that that has come is, if you compare it historically, this is the second time any party has won a close to two-thirds majority, and which is a super majority. So people have spoken out. So it's now for the parties to deliver, especially the Rashtriya Swatantra Party.
The result that RSP was able to garner, it's almost two-thirds, it's a super majority. I think the last time we saw this kind of majority was in 1959 elections. Do you think the party itself had calculated this massive success, or do you think it's just a byproduct of the frustration among the public?
I think partly they had calculated, and partly they were also taken by surprise. Partly they had calculated in the sense that if you reflect back on the election strategies of RSP, they were carefully articulating their politics. For example, the way they decided to field Balendra Shah in Tarai, that sent a strong message. Similarly, they were also able to cash on the grievance, but the grievance exists everywhere. Anti-incumbency is always there in any society. How do you articulate that grievance, and how do you convert that grievance into a political victory is a strategy that you have to pay attention to, which RSP has been able to do very well. But they were also, I think, taken a bit by surprise, I think, because they were definitely looking for a majority, but I'm not quite sure about the super majority.
Many old guards have gone down in this election. Do you think this is a permanent dismantling of the old system?
The parties, Nepali Congress, UML, and for the last 20 years, the Maoists, have been in the driving seat for a long period of time. And one of the challenging issues of Nepali politics has been the politicization of the public life. In fact, by this I mean the partification of the public life. So every aspect of the public life was partified. You know, if you are not a member of a political party, you could not get an opportunity to participate meaningfully in civil life. I mean, that was very frustrating, and that was also demeaning on the part for the citizens, because it reeked like a modern day feudalism. So, and in many ways, our traditional parties have modeled themselves around the feudal structures. But there was a huge disconnect between what we call the Gen Zs and a little older people than Gen Zs, because economically, culturally, and even to an extent politically, there was a lot of autonomy on the part of the citizen from the state-led processes. You know, state was doing its work, but then the citizens had already sort of crafted their own space or autonomous space in all these spheres that I just mentioned. So there was a disconnect, and the disconnect, to add to that disconnect, was the fact that the mode of communication, if you will, had changed. You know, traditionally the mode of communication was through, you know, you would organize rallies and you would do that. Now in this tech savvy era, you were communicating through new medias. So the mode of communication had changed, the mode of messaging had changed, the message itself had changed, which many leaders in the traditional parties failed to realize. As a result, there was a huge disconnect, and then we see this. Second, to borrow a phrase as a Nepali political scientist had put in, this contest was also a contest between half the population, half each, because if you divide the 3 crore population into 1 crore 50 lakhs, 1 crore 50 lakhs, so half of them were partified at a theoretical level, if not at an empirical level, we could say that, and the other half was not. So this division was quite open, and this mandate, which you call the dismantling, which I don't believe is the dismantling, is a result of this. So as for the dismantling, the traditional party structures will now not work, because these parties have emerged in a very different global political context. These older traditional parties were a result of a Cold War era politics, where ideology of a particular variety sort of guided them. But today, such kind of working doesn't help, because times have changed. We have new economic, political, and cultural situation at play, which these parties have not been able to, as I pointed out earlier, not been able to address. Therefore, we see this situation.
Mm-hmm. How long do you think can a government survive purely on service delivery and technocracy without taking clear ideological stances, for instance, for federalism or secularism and constitutional reform?
The population has grown wary of the ideological rhetoric, because there is limited delivery. I'm not saying the previous governments did not deliver. They did. But that delivery was limited. That delivery was conditional. And that delivery was, by conditional I mean the parties were then using that delivery as a succor to secure vote every time they went. For instance, they would say, okay, it is our party which has built this road, highway or road or connectivity or hospital, therefore you should vote our candidate every time. So that kind of as I indicated earlier, that kind of a feudal mentality would no longer help. Therefore, in the short run, RSP will find success if they deliver on the front of governance, as their manifesto sort of indicates that they want to go for example, paperless governance model, or that is less of a bureaucratic model. So if they deliver on those fronts and some of the other fronts that they have promised, in the short run, that will help them. But in the longer run, if you claim yourself to be a political party, there has to be a holding force. So as I indicated earlier, Nepali Congress, UML, Maoist, all are product of a time where they were politically socialized in an environment which was reflective of the development of the 60s and the 70s. That is the industrial capitalism that was taking place in the West. So that industrial capitalism brought to fore the debate between socialism and capitalism. Within socialism, what kind of socialism would you take, and what the other form of socialism would be communism. So that kind of an ideological debate was there, and the parties sort of structured themselves along those lines, and the leaders were also politically socialized in that light. So if you take that very capitalism, which is still at play, its logics have changed today. Some 40, 45 years, 50 years down the line, they have changed. Today, it is not the traditional industrial capitalism that is at play. Today, we have big tech giants, like Meta or Twitter or other meta tech giants, which today control the economy and to an extent politics. So, and we also have a significant section of the population today that we call Gen Z, which is also a tech netizen, which grew up, which was born with technology, in a very technologically invasive environment. So, how has the society, politics, culture shaped by that process is reflected in our politics. Therefore, I said our old guards are not able to sort of take cognizance of that shift. Some leaders may have taken note of it and tried to adopt, but at a general level, the old guards failed to adopt. Therefore, in the changed political environment, cultural and economic environment, the traditional party system will not work. Having said this, I do not mean to say there is no ideology at play. Technology itself produces its own ideology. For example, there is now a different kind of echo chamber that is generated in social media, which was also reflected in the way people voted this time around. So if you are building your political opinion based on what you see on TikTok or Insta, so that is definitely an ideological framing, because then you are framing the world view in a particular perspective. Therefore, I think ideology has not died out, but the old forms of ideology have changed and they have taken a new shape.
This election also showed the emergence of a really relatively new party led by Harka Sampang, which has the philosophy of labor first. How do you interpret the mood among the voters at the grassroots?
I, for one, cannot comment absolutely on Harkaji's rise, because I have looked at it from a very distance. But two things are very clear. One, Harka Sampang could, and his party could do very well in the traditional Janjati constituency. His articulation of labor first is also his idea of a very ethnocentric approach, very nationalist approach to indigeneity, being that motto or soil, I'm indigenous to soil, and you should value labor to the soil. It's a very indigenizing idea that is floating. If we go by his past statements in public, he's also called for military conscription and all that kind of a thing. So some electorate sort of have resonated with what Harkaji has to say, and they have given his mandate. We will also have to understand Harkaji's rise in the context where the Eastern Hills have, for the last 25 years or so, seen a massive growth of ethnic parties, be that Mongol National Organization or even a recent developments out there. So for the last 35, 40 years. So I am reading Harkaji's rise in that context. We are yet to see, is it a continuation of that kind of an identity politics articulation in a different manner, or is it altogether a different ballgame?
Considering that several prominent parties also did not garner as many or reach threshold, in fact, to be acknowledged as a national party, do you think this is solely just a constituency thing?
No, we'll have to again put things in perspective. This election is taking place in the aftermath of the Gen Z protest. Mm-hmm. So I go back to that example that I use. The national population has always been demarcating the whole politics between people who are part of the party system, traditional party system, and who are outside of it. So, and they have well articulated understanding that people who are part of the party system have benefited disproportionately. Mm-hmm. So they should be done away with. In that context, we see that the traditional parties have been swept away for the time being, And we see the rise of new parties, including that of Harkaji's. Harkaji also emerged as an independent candidate in mayoral election. So we'll have to understand that our national articulation or national imagination is based on certain deliveries at certain local levels. People who have delivered at local levels to whatever that delivery may mean to that respective population or the electorate, they have delivered. For example, Balen is considered to have delivered in Kathmandu. Harkaji delivered in Dharan. He brought in the drinking water. He fixed the drinking water problem. Balen is credited with fixing the garbage management issue or other issues. So all these issues, because we are a democracy with low expectation. We are not a democracy with high expectation. So even small gestures and small acts sort of garner a lot of trust among the population. So we will have to see their rise also in that context. So their elevation, so it was articulated in such a way that if they can deliver at the local level at this point, so what if they get a chance at the national level? So I think that sort of message resonated well with the population.
Over the course of time, of course, you have in fact observed a lot of transitions in our country. What would you say, what kind of democracy would you say would be best fit for Nepal?
For the last 75 years, Nepal has wrestled with one or other forms of democracy. Even Panchayat called itself a democracy. And the modernization process that it undertook also sort of brought in changes that later on proved very vital for Nepali society. But at least for the last 40 years, we've practiced a kind of a democracy which is largely a Westministerial model. And we said that the national representatives would legislate and bring in laws and usher in development. That model seems to have had partial success, where a large part of the electorate feels that a lot of their issues are to be settled at the lower level or at the, let's say, at the local level. And at the national level, the kind of debates that often take place do not resonate. So this is at a very rhetorical level. But at an empirical level, if you look at the working of the democracy, by and large, I would not say we were off track. By and large, the framework was okay, but it had its own share of problem. And not correcting that share of problem resulted in this. So we'll have to understand. For example, to answer your question, I will use an example. Nepal, I believe, currently has three forms of victims, if you will. The first victim is a victim of the conflict, armed conflict. Second is the victim of the financial frauds. Many financial frauds, including meter. We have meter bias or loan sharks. And then third, we have the victims of what we call the natural disasters. State's response to all three set is problematic, and their wounds they have been grieving for a long time. So they have open wounds, if you will. So not being able to address these victims sort of means you are sitting on a cake powder, and it could explode. It did explode. We'll have to understand that before the Gen Z protest, there were several other rounds of protest, including against the loan sharks. And time and again there has been rallying by the victims of the natural disaster. And of course, armed conflict victims are always there. So we will also have to so if the democracy is not able to address the victims, and if our democracy only creates victims, so that's going to be a problem. Second, one of the biggest challenges of our democracy has been, it's a neoliberal variety of democracy, where the economic opportunities have not been created enough. So that has created another set of problem. You have a very young population which is very restless, globally connected, hyper-connected rather, but does not have enough, you know. So, in terms of economic opportunities, therefore, we have to think about a democracy which balances opportunities with social justice. So, if we cannot strike a balance between the two, I mean, any form of democracy will not work. I don't think so. We will have the kind of stability we are looking for.
Your research has highlighted a youth demand for meritocracy. What structural changes do you think is needed in the state apparatus to finally replace the culture of nepotism and avoid brain drain?
You know, every society has nepotism. You can take nepotism. There are different ways in which nepotism sort of manifests. In our part of the world, let's say in South Asia, nepotism manifests a little more prominently, you know, as anthropologist Durvadru Bista often used to call what he called the Afnomanse culture. So, but then in the West also we have some form of nepotism. We have the culture of recommendation. So, you know, who recommends you and who recommends whom sort of lands you jobs and opportunities. So, having said that, nepotism sort of bars people, deserving candidates from coming in. But and meritocracy is one of the expected aspects of democracy. But we will also have to pay very close attention to the other aspect. We are talking about meritocracy in a society which is historically unequal. So we have to balance the idea of meritocracy with the question of inclusion. So meritocracy for whom? For example, if you are coming from a community that has been traditionally advantaged, you are already a beneficiary of the structural benefits of structural dividends that existed. So, as against someone who may be a first in his family or a community to receive university education and then get a job. So, if there is this competition between these two kind of individuals, so meritocracy alone cannot be the defining feature. So, of course, meritocracy is very important. People with adequate expertise should get opportunity, but then we will also have to consider our historical context where social exclusion was pervasive. So, we will also have to balance our meritocracy with inclusion. Only then we can sort of, but this again creates its own state of tension. So, just to go back to your earlier question, what kind of democracy we would want, and this democracy would, so our democracy would be a little messy. I see a lot of mess in the coming days because these questions will be asked again. You know, for now people are brushing aside these questions. I don't think so these questions will be brushed aside. I see these questions coming out very prominently.
Considering the current number at the parliament, how strong of a role do you think the opposition parties are going to play at the parliament? And do you think there's a risk of tyranny of majority?
See, democracy produces its own contradictions, as does the politics. But tyranny of majority, I do not want to comment on it as yet, because we have not seen how RSP on its own would function. I mean, we have seen RSP function as part of a government. It was part of a coalition. So coalition has its own compulsions. So I would give that benefit of doubt to RSP. But on the role of the opposition, I see we'll have to consider this. In our political culture, we do not generally we have a working relationship among politicians. Up until now, we've seen that, and I hope this will continue. If it doesn't, then situation will change, because Parliament is of course about numbers, and number is against the opposition. So, for example, the intent of RSP will be clear when it comes to dividing the parliamentary committees. For example, Public Accounts Committee is generally headed by a leader of the opposition party. The idea is that that's the committee where a lot of national accounting questions are asked. So, and national accounting money is controlled by the treasury, is controlled by the government. Therefore, the opposition should be on the public accounts committee. If they do not give that position to the opposition, let's say Nepali Congress, then we can question their intent. If they do, then we can say that, okay, they seem to be abiding by the general democratic parliamentary principles that are set. So, as I said, we'll have to wait and watch before jumping our guns.
Considering all the developments around the world, this period seems like intense when we look at the geopolitical landscape. How do you see the next government balancing diplomacy, especially with our neighboring giants?
See, that's a very interesting question. I, for one, do not believe in balancing act. And the balancing act is very difficult. Why I am saying this is we'll have to put it into perspective. The balancing act that many of our people talk about of the Nepali states in the past is largely again a Cold War era politics that we will have to consider. Both our neighbors were not very economically vibrant. In comparison to us, of course, they were very vibrant, but at a global scale, they were not very vibrant. So what the regime of the day did was they used the West. They used the West and Soviet Union to leverage against India and China. But today, things are very different. Today, our two neighbors are the global economic engines. China is the global factory. India, similarly, is a very major economy. So, if we want to engage, rather than balance, I would use the term engage. If we want to engage with them, we will have to offer a meaningful economic blueprint to our two neighbors and to the extended neighbor, the United States. So we cannot leave out the United States when we consider the two, because for the last 80 years, it is the relationship between the three that has sort of governed South Asia and has affected Nepal too. So we cannot sort of rule out. So we will have to offer a meaningful economic blueprint, which of course the RSP manifesto sort of, if you go by the manifesto, they indicate that. Second, when we talk about how do we engage with our neighbors and on the broader foreign policy front, we will also have to pay attention to the diaspora. Today, comparison to the 60s and the 70s, we have a significant diaspora both in the Gulf and in the West, and increasingly spread across other parts of the world. So they too will have a significant role to play. So when we want to, let's say you want to engage with China, and here RSP is promising that once a Nepali, always a Nepali. That is what their manifesto says. They want to bring in the overseas Nepalese, NRN Nepalese, and contribute and make sure that their skills are used, and in return they are also treated at national power. So we have a global powerhouse called China, which is a global manufacturer. So how would you use the skills that the NRNs have in order to bridge the gap? We need a lot of technology transfer. Our need is technology transfer. So our foreign policy should be geared in that direction. The old rhetorics, I don't think so, is going to use. I mean, of course, there are certain traditional concerns. China has its own traditional concerns. India has its own traditional concerns. But we will also have to consider the fact that both India and China have also changed in these many years. And for instance, China's part that is attached to us or close to us has a significantly lower population but a vast territory. Similarly, on the southern side, the India's population, the area that is attached to us has a significant population, but in terms of territory, they are not a very sizable territory. So what does this mean? So what does being close to Uttar Pradesh and Bihar mean in terms of economy, in terms of connectivity? So And it's not that in the last 35 years nothing have happened. Infrastructure connectivity has been worked out, and we have now rails coming up to the Indian borders. And on the Chinese front, I think we need more air connectivity rather than the land connectivity. We need more air connectivity, and there is a lot of talk of business being done. We do a lot of our trade through India, and we are also trying to increase our trade through China. So it's the economy that will have to play out well, because if we don't do that, then mere rhetorics, I don't think so, are going to help us.
Ideally, the common goal for countries is to grow together.
Right.
Nepal government has partnered with many countries in economic front or infrastructure front as well. In the past, we have signed many programs that have been controversial. There are also programs that are in the cards, in the table, in discussions that have concerned the general public. What do you think of it?
I think you are hinting at MCC and other agreements. In principle, I think the way we engage, let's say MCC, our foreign policy, if you want to view that from a foreign policy perspective, Nepali state's foreign policy has always been regime-centric. You know, during the Panchayat, Americans were the biggest backers of the Panchayat. So the American modernization sort of played out in Nepal very well, and also benefited the elite, and sort of that the effects of that modernization process trickled down to the society. Similarly, when it comes to MCC, I think at the first look, MCC should not be a problem because it's a project that talks about connectivity. But I am personally concerned about the money. The money Nepali state itself can generate. If it is about generating electricity, I think we are in a position to generate the amount that MCC has promised. But the fact is that the Americans have had a traditional hold over the Nepali political structure for a long period of time, as a result of which they were able to sort of get hold onto the energy sector. I for one have always stood against the MCC personally, at a personal level, because I believe it's for the South Asians to decide their energy policy. It's not for the Americans or the others. We, of course, can seek help in terms of technology transfer, which I have been emphasizing quite a lot, because then the energy policy and the energy, because if you are able to control the energy, for example, then you are able to control many things. Having said that, this is my personal opinion. I don't think so. This is how the people in Singadarbar were thinking and are going to think, because they think that engaging with America at a more deeper level is more beneficial to the country, which makes sense to the extent that a large section of our diaspora lives in the United States and the West. But therefore, there is a paradox. The society pushes you to engage more with the West, because a large section of the society is there. But then traditionally state, if you think from the perspective of the state wants to have its autonomy. So more engagement with more powerful countries means your autonomy to work, given your institutional capacity, will be limited. So I think there is a paradox there. And on the Chinese front, I think it's the same story. I mean, Chinese have come here with their own development model. They want to expand, which is understandable. But again, we should take things with a pinch of salt and with a lot of caution, because we'll have to see how much institutional capacity we have to sort of engage in the BRI framework that China has put forward, because there are other components to BRI, and connectivity is just one. So how comprehensive are we going to be in our interaction? It's for the people in Singadarbar to decide.
So the fear of losing autonomy maybe is, for now, wait and watch.
There are two things. If you want to interact in in an economy, in a world system that is highly interconnected, then definitely you are going to lose your autonomy, as economist Danny Roderick puts it, that if you are looking for more of a connectivity, then the states should not think more about their autonomy, because autonomy will be compromised. But if you want autonomy, I mean, as I said, I'm just putting in the picture for you. If you want autonomy, then you engage less. But if you want connectivity, you want more interaction, then you compromise on your autonomy. So it is all for you to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you think we are capable enough to maintain that autonomy ourselves?
As of now, the records of the last 2 decades are not very optimistic. We tend to swing a lot. Our center has shaken. Our center was never very strong, but it is shaken. That's because we have not put a lot of emphasis on our economic growth. Today's interaction primarily rests on economic interaction. It's the economy, it's not the ideology. So ideology has taken a new shape, as I've been trying to point out time and again. It has taken a new shape. So if we understand these complexities and nuances and work, I think we can make things do, because many other states like Nepal have performed better. They have made choices, and some choices have worked out for them, some choices have not, but largely they have steered their ship. So, I mean, drawing lessons, we can of course, I think, manage. I don't think so things are that very pessimistic.
Are our current federal structures strong enough to sustain a republic, or does the RSP's centralized popularity suggest we need to rethink how power is decentralized entirely?
What is the nature of power of Nepali state and its concurrent relationship with Nepali society? If we ask this question, then we can answer the question, why did Nepal opt for a federal system? Nepal opted for a federal system because it wanted to do away with a long-held tradition of a centralized, Nepali state was a centralized agrarian feudal state. So we wanted to change that, and we wanted to change the nature of the power, but it doesn't happen overnight. So we'll have to see how the power blocks shift. So from 1950, the year when 1950-51, when Nepal, when it was promised that Nepal would have a constituent assembly which would decide its fate, it took another 5 decades for us to come to that position. We also came to a conclusion for a federal state. The demand for federal state is very old. Way back in the 1950s, there was a demand, especially in Tarai. And we now see that the Tarai movement, or the Madhis movement of 2007, was also very significant in heralding the federalism, along with the decade-long Maoist-led civil war. So all of this, so we will have to consider the fact that why did we sort of arrive at this point? So if RSP, I mean, with RSP, I think there's a lot of confusion, because publicly some of their senior members have said we do not need federal structure, it is too costly, and all that political paraphernalia that comes with the criticism of, or rather cynicism of federalism, has been publicly stated. But then we also know that it's a historical fact that Nepal came to a federal state because we wanted to not just devolve power, but we also wanted to share power, because it's sharing, and share rule and self-rule. So that is why federalism exists. To answer the other part of your question, can our structures sustain? I'm not sure, because we've not done a audit of the way we practiced federalism. For example, there is a council called, it's a constitutionally sort of position, National Coordination Council, which is headed by Prime Minister, and this council is supposed to, it's a 20-member council which has federal ministers and all chief ministers of 7 states. So they are supposed to meet regularly and discuss issues in federal governance. This has not happened. And there are, for example, the central government was supposed to legislate laws in order to ensure in order to facilitate the implementation of federalism. For example, provincial police. Unless you change the national police law, provincial police cannot sort of operate accordingly. So all these things are there. So we have to first, I think, do a audit of the practice of federalism, and then sort of come to a conclusion whether our current practice of federalism is on the right track. I, for one, believe it is on the right track. I mean, theoretically, because if you want to do away with this practice, then the forces that this doing away will unleash will be very difficult for both society and state to handle.
Lastly, what takeaways or learnings do you think the next government, our new government, can take from previous governments, and what would you say would be blind spots that it will need to avoid?
Okay. Since the new political actors in town have been saying that the last 35 years nothing has occurred in the last 35 years, I would sincerely request them to look back on those 35 years, be that the political and the parliamentary practices, be that the economic practices, be that the cultural policies that the Nepali state has stood for, and the positives and the negatives out of those practices. Now, as for the blind spot, I think there's a lot of apprehension on two fronts. One, as I indicated, RSP's real commitment to federalism, inclusion, and the constitutional principles as such. The other blind spot is, in this drive for technocratic governance, what will happen to the question of inclusive development and the other questions that comes with, because this political set is going to emphasize on meritocracy, and as I've already indicated, meritocracy is very important, but in a society that has been historically sidelined, and where inequality reigns large. So how do you sort of manage that competing tension? I think that would be another blind spot that this new incoming government will have to pay attention to.
Mr. Kral, thank you so much for your time and opinion here on Insight.
Thank you, Saraji, for having me.
Well, as the first session of the new federal parliament is convening in a few days or weeks' time, the nation enters a period defined by a mandate unseen in decades. The transition from campaign promises to legislative action begins now, marking a critical test for governance, accountability, and structural reforms that have long been at the center of national discourse. How these representatives navigate the complexities of this new assembly will define the trajectory of the country's stability and economic resilience. We will keep tracking these developments here on NTV World. Thank you for being part of this conversation on Insight. Until next time.
Human beings have made drastic progress in the sector of handicrafts with the development of civilization from the Stone Age until the 21st century. These include and are not limited to works of art, sculptures, wood and metal crafts. These handicrafts have also found religious, historic, cultural and archaeological acceptance and significance. Religious texts have identified the attraction of human settlements in the mountainous region of Nepal, which has always remained an independent sovereign nation. Ramapithecus human remains found in Butwal of West Nepal clarifies that human settlement had begun in Nepal more than 10 million years ago. We find historic references of works of handicrafts made by those living in this region. Such Nepali handicrafts are artistic and useful, therefore also successful in gaining international appreciation. Instead of the modern handicrafts, Nepal is well introduced in the international community by its traditional and historic works of art and craft. Millions of tourists who visit Nepal every year observe, study and relish the traditional handicrafts available at religious shrines. The high-quality woods brought from local forests are seasoned before being carved. Nepali woodcrafts are not only popular inside the country, but also have demand abroad and therefore are exported. In addition to sculptures of gods and goddesses, artistic doors and windows, among other furniture, are made from wood in Nepal. Best examples of Nepali woodcraft can be taken as the artistic carvings at palaces, temples and other religious shrines in Kathmandu, Lalitpur and Bhaktapur. The 6th century woodcraft present at Rudravarna Mahavihar in Okubahal of Lalitpur is considered the oldest. Nepali woodcraft continues to thrive with the creativity, dedication and effort of trained artists. Artist Punyaraj Tuladhar, popular around the world, shares his experience. Lalitpur is popular around the world for its metal craft in Nepal. Works of metal craft produced here had a great demand in countries including Bhutan, Japan, China and European nations. Metal statues are developed using two methods in Nepal: repose art and lost wax process, both widely popular around the world. Repose art is a metalworking technique in which a malleable metal, silver, copper and brass among others, is shaped by hammering from the reverse side to create a design in low relief. Small sheets of metal are cut based on required measurement to form different organs of statues before being welded together. Designs and patterns are then carved into the structure. Gold is plated in some works such as metalcraft as well. Such metal sheets are also used in the roof of temples and other religious shrines. Lost wax process is the technique by which a metal sculpture, often silver, gold, brass or bronze, is cast from an original sculpture of wax made of honeycomb. Molten metal is poured into a mold that has been created by means of a wax model. Once the mold is made, the wax model is melted and drained away. In the second phase, the metal sculpture is cleaned with different machines or equipment. After filling of the sculpture, it is then plated with gold Most of such sculptures are made from the stones found in local hills, including Hatiban, Machegao, Tika Bhairav, Godavari and Kharpa, among others. Senior artist Dharmaraj Shakya says that Nepal's stone art has a unique identity. Of the stone sculptures found so far, a sculpture of King Jaya Varma found in Hanigao and currently conserved at National Museum in Chhaoni is considered to be the oldest historic sculpture. Likewise, sculptures in Changu installed by King Mandev, another found in Tilganga near Pashupati, a sculpture of Vishnu Vikrant in Lazimpat, and the one at Budhanilkantha are also considered historic. Sculpture of Virupaksha Kirateshwar Mahadev at Pashupati Aryaghat, Vishwaroop at Changu, Garud Sayan Vishnu sculpture, Palanchuk Bhagwati, Gazalakshmi of Lalitpur, Chashal Hiti and Krishna Mandir of Patan, among others, are considered the best stone sculptures of Nepal. Terracotta sculptures and masks, among other artworks, are made from clay. Terracotta works are thought to have been in existence in Nepal from a long time. According to historians and archaeologists, terracotta works found during a recent excavation administered by the Department of Archaeology were from the 2nd century BC. In recent practices, terracotta works are made before the development of metal sculptures. Different goods used in daily life are made from terracotta works. In addition to the sculptures of religious figures, products such as cups and plates, among other utensils, are also made from terracotta technique, while they are sold in domestic and foreign markets as well. Artists who have been working with terracotta for ages live in Thimi of Bhaktapur, Dang and Kapilvastu. Popular artist Gopal Kalapremi says the creativity and dedication of Nepali artists has been uplifting terracotta works in and outside of Nepal. Pauba art is made in the Kathmandu Valley and is considered as a traditional art form. This form of art is known as Thanga in Tibet. In Tibetan language, documentation and archives of gods and goddesses is called Thanku or Thanga. In this form of art, color from natural minerals is used to paint the pictures of religious figures on cloth. The large figure of main god and goddesses is placed at the center, while remaining gods and goddesses are placed in relatively smaller figures at the other parts. The background of this form of art includes different kinds of flowers, clouds, trees, and birds and animals. An artwork of Ratnasambhav Buddha conserved at the County Museum in Los Angeles of the United States of America is considered to be the oldest Paubha art, which was developed in the 13th century. The Amitabha Buddha art of the 13th century, also at the County Museum alongside Vishnu Mandala of 1420, and the 19th century's Sahas Bhujalokeshwar saved at the National Museum in Chhaoni, are considered to be Nepal's best Paubha artworks. The demand of Paubha artworks is increasing in Nepal and the foreign market. Popular and senior artist Lok Chitrakar says continuous efforts of talented artists has helped increase the popularity of Nepali Paubha art. Nepali handicrafts have established a significant position in the international community for their traditional, religious, social, historic and archaeological richness. Nepal Academy of Fine Arts has been conducting significant tasks in regards to conservation, promotion and development of Nepali handicrafts. Active involvement of experienced, skilled and talented artists, along with their devotion and sacrifices, have been rejuvenating Nepali handicrafts and helping establish a unique and superior identity of Nepal in the international community.
Israel continues to launch a wave of strikes on Tehran and Beirut, while attacks in Baghdad drew neighboring Iraq deeper into the Middle East war that has sparked economic turmoil across the globe. The Iranian capital is under near daily bombardment since a joint US-Israeli attack started the war on February the 28th and has been hit by what the Israeli military says are strikes on terrorism infrastructure. The war, now in its third week, has killed hundreds and quickly spread to include Iranian strikes on Gulf nations as well as Israeli bombardment of Lebanon. Drones and rockets have been launched at the US embassy in Iraq's capital Baghdad in the second such attack of the war. Meanwhile, Israel's defense minister says Iran's security chief and the head of its paramilitary Basij force, Ali Larijani, has been killed. Larijani was one of the targets of strikes carried out by the Israeli military across Iran. Iran has not yet commented on his death. If his death is confirmed, he would be the most senior Iranian official to be killed after the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who died on the first day of the war. Larijani, a former nuclear negotiator and a close ally of Khamenei, was seen in Tehran on Friday taking part in Quds Days rallies. The ongoing war in the Middle East is likely to intensify institutionalized repression of Iranian citizens, UN-mandated investigators told the Human Rights Council. The independent fact-finding mission on Iran cautioned that external military intervention does not provide accountability, nor does it bring any meaningful change, according to mission chair Sarah Hussein.
The core lesson drawn from our investigations in this context is clear. External military action does not provide accountability, nor does it bring meaningful change. Instead, it risks intensifying domestic repression by a state that routinely resorts to repressive measures to suppress its own people and to suppress dissent. We are deeply concerned that the current security situation may again, as in June 25, be used to escalate repression and to punish those who have dared to express dissent.
In response, Iranian Ambassador Ali Bahraini defended his government, stating that Iran is not a nation that submits to coercion, intimidation, or lawless aggression.
Iran is not a nation that submits to coercion, intimidation, or lawless aggression. Today, in the face of the more than 1,300 innocent lives lost and over 7,000 people injured, including a 6-month-old baby struggling for his life, the international community must not remain silent.
The exchange underscores growing international concern over human rights in Iran amid escalating regional conflict and mounting geopolitical pressure. Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, IEA, Fatia Birol, says the volume of oil supply now offline is already higher than the supply loss during the oil shock of 1973 and higher than any of the big disruptions witnessed since then, as oil prices jump further above $100 per barrel and Asian stocks mostly fall. His remarks came as the Iran war moves into a third week, with both sides showing no sign of backing down and diplomats trying to ensure safe passage for tankers through the crucial Strait of Hormuz.
The war in the Middle East is creating the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. The volume of oil supply now offline is already higher than the supply loss during the oil shock of 1973, and higher than any of the big disruptions we have witnessed since then.
It is said the single most important thing for a return to stable flows of oil and gas is the resumption of the transit through the Strait of Hormuz. The IEA members agreed last week to release a record 400 million barrels from stockpiles to cushion the surge in prices caused by the war.
IEA countries are making around 400 million barrels of oil available to the market to offset the supply lost from the effective closure of Strait of Hormuz. This quick action by the IEA had a calming impact on markets. Oil prices today are significantly lower than they were 1 week ago. But while our stock release can provide a buffer for now, it is not a lasting solution.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump continues to call on other nations, particularly NATO allies, to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil shipping route. A major temple in northeastern Thailand has suspended its cremation service after service stations refused to sell fuel in containers, preventing the temple from stockpiling the amount needed for regular operations. The restriction on filling containers was introduced under a set of emergency measures imposed amid the ongoing Middle East crisis. Mahathat Temple has announced that its crematorium will be temporarily closed until the situation improves, although funeral prayers for the deceased will continue as normal. The temple's deputy abbot said the announcement was made after petrol stations in the area refused to sell fuel in containers, meaning the temple could not purchase and store enough to operate the crematorium. According to the deputy abbot, the temple's crematorium is an environmentally friendly system that uses a combination of fuel and electricity. Its cremation requires about 90 liters of fuel, costing around 3,000 baht. Under normal circumstances, the temple keeps a reserve of about 100 liters of oil for the crematorium, but current measures limit the fuel purchases to about 500 baht per transaction and prohibit customers from filling the containers. The temple averages over 10 cremations each month, many of them free of charge as part of its charity work. A month after the eruption of the Piton de la Fournaise volcano on the Reunion Island, lava has finally reached the ocean for the first time in 19 years, creating dramatic plumes of steam as molten rock meets the sea. The eruption, which began with a series of fissures on the volcano's slopes, continues to send streams of lava toward the coastline, slowly cooling as it spreads. Locals and tourists have flocked to vantage points to witness the spectacle, describing it as breathtaking, despite warnings from authorities to keep a safe distance. Emergency services have maintained heightened alert levels, emphasizing the dangers posed by molten lava, toxic gases, and the unstable terrain. Scientists continue to monitor the eruption closely, noting that while the flow has slowed, the situation remains unpredictable. This event marks a significant moment for Reunion Island, where lava last reached the sea nearly 2 decades ago, highlighting both the raw power of the island's volcanic activity and the growing interest in volcanic tourism. A traditional rural industry in Sri Lanka has gained renewed attention after its recent recognition by UNESCO. But workers say deep-rooted social barriers continue to limit its growth. In village communities across the country, ketul tapping, the process of extracting sap from the ketul palm, remains a centuries-old practice. The sap is boiled into treacle, a caramel-colored syrup widely used to enhance desserts and traditional dishes. When further reduced, the syrup becomes jaggery, a mineral-rich palm sugar considered a healthier alternative to refined white sugar due to its lower glycemic index. The UNESCO inscription has brought global visibility to the craft, which supports thousands of rural livelihoods. However, despite the recognition, the industry continues to face stigma in Sri Lanka's caste-conscious society, where ketul tapping is often viewed as a low-status occupation. It is said the international spotlight could help improve both demand and working conditions, but meaningful change will depend on shifting long-held social attitudes as well as increased investment in rural production networks. Officials have indicated that further support measures may be introduced to promote the sector, positioning ketul products for both domestic consumption and export markets. The 2-week-long Aplay Chao Hangshing Cultural Festival officially began on Sunday, drawing devotees and tourists alike to the southern Hong Kong district for traditional celebrations. The festivities started after participants departed from Aplay Chao's Hangshing Temple, carrying figurines of folk deities, including Guan Yin and Tin Hao, seated on traditional sedan chairs. The parade, noted for its elaborate displays, attracted a growing number of onlookers as it made its way to nearby shrines. Local residents expressed hope that the tradition would continue for generations, highlighting its importance to the city's cultural identity. Upon reaching the pier, parade members boarded a vessel at Aberdeen Typhoon Shelter, taking the procession out to the sea. Hung Shing, revered as the god of the South Sea, was deified by fishermen who credit him with ensuring household peace, favorable weather, and bountiful catches. The Aplay Chow community celebrates the festival for over a century, with events continuing over the next 2 weeks, including dragon boat performances, parades, and water lantern ceremonies.
Nearly 10 months after the release of K-pop Demon Hunters, foreign tourists continue to visit Naksan Park, a historic site along Seoul's Old City Wall and one of the drama's most iconic filming locations. The park, known for its scenic views and cultural significance, has become a magnet for fans eager to experience the setting or key scenes in person. Visitors from countries across Asia, Europe, and North America have been spotted taking photos, following in the footsteps of their favorite characters, and sharing their experiences on social media, further amplifying the show's global reach. Local tourism officials report that popularity of K-pop Demon Hunters has contributed to a sustained increase in foot traffic and revenue collection in the area, highlighting the growing economic impact of K-pop and Korean dramas on the international level. Nakshan Park, part of Seoul's historic fortification dating back to Joseon dynasty, is now not only a cultural landmark but also a symbol of the global appeal of South Korea's entertainment industry.
Golden eagles and white-tailed eagles have been spotted with unusual frequency around Beijing's outskirts last winter and this spring, drawing crowds of photographers eager to capture rare images of the large raptors. In Fangshan district, dozens of enthusiasts gathered by the roadside to photograph the golden eagles. Species such as the golden eagle and white-tailed sea eagle were traditionally believed to inhabit only the remote deep forest of Greater Khingan Mountains and the Lesser Khingan Mountains in northeast China. Seeing them in Beijing is truly unexpected, said Yang Gensuo, a photographer from Heilongjiang province, northeast China. At the Shiyu Reservoir in Pinggu district, more than a dozen white-tailed eagles became the focus of nearly 100 cameras. Local bird watchers said that white-tailed eagles now arrive at the reservoir each December and stay until mid-March. This season, 18 have been recorded wintering here. The growing number of sightings of birds of prey in Beijing's outskirts should be attributed to improved ecological conditions and reduced human disturbances in recent years, according to the bird experts.
Thousands of members of Senegal's Baifal community are working to prepare iftar meals for those observing Ramadan, even though themselves neither fast nor perform the prayers. Parts of the Mouride Sufi Brotherhood, the Baifal, follow a path of spiritual service and selfless giving, emphasizing devotion through labor and charity. Each year, disciples from across the country gather to distribute meals, reinforcing their role in supporting local communities and upholding the Brotherhood's long-standing traditions. The Baifal are a distinct subgroup within the Mouride Sufi order, one of the Senegal's largest and most influential religious brotherhoods. Founded in the late 19th century, they emphasize hard work, discipline, and devotion to God. Unlike other Muslims who observe strict fasting and prayer routines, Baifal members express their faith through manual labor, community service, and acts of charity, believing that serving humanity is a direct form of worship. During Ramadan, their annual meal distribution strengthens community ties and highlights the intersection of faith and social responsibility in Senegalese society.
Hello and welcome to The Perspective on NTV World. I am Sabika Shrestha, your host for the weekly current affairs program. Here we pick the major news of the week, unpack its significance and examine how today's decision shaped tomorrow's direction. This week's episode focuses on Nepal's post-election political transition as the Rashtriya Swatantra Party prepares to form a new government after the March 5 House of Representatives elections. We will look at the constitutional process of government formation, the debate around national party recognition and the representation requirements in the new parliament. We also explore efforts in eastern Nepal to support temporary election security personnel after the polls, and the wider impact of Middle East tensions on international flights affecting travelers from Kathmandu. Nepal is preparing for the formation of a new government led by the Rashtriya Swatantra Party after it almost secured two-thirds majority in the March 5 House of Representatives elections. For the first time since the promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal 2015, the government will be formed under Article 76(1), allowing the President to appoint the parliamentary party leader of the majority party as Prime Minister. The process is expected to take around 10 days as constitutional procedures including convening parliament and electing the speaker and deputy speaker are completed. Here's a report by Diksha Avasthi.
Nepal is set to witness the formation of a new government under the leadership of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, which secured a two-thirds majority in the recent House of Representatives elections held on March 5. For the first time since the promulgation of the Constitution of Nepal 2015, the government will be formed procedurally under Article 76, Clause 1, which allows the President to appoint the leader of the parliamentary party with a majority as Prime Minister, with a Council of Ministers formed under their chairmanship. Previously, governments were formed through coalitions as no single party had secured a majority. This time, with the Rashtriya Swatantra Party winning the majority, the process will follow a clear constitutional path. Constitutional experts have outlined the steps that must be completed. The Election Commission must submit the official election report to the President within 7 days. The President then convenes Parliament within 30 days. Senior members take the oath from the President and administer oaths to other members. And finally, the Speaker and Deputy Speaker are elected before the Prime Minister and Cabinet can be formally sworn in. Rashtriya Swatantra Party has indicated that the entire process will take at least 10 days. Legal scholars note that under Article 76, the new government will not require a vote of confidence and a no confidence motion cannot be moved against a single party majority government for at least 2 years, ensuring stability. This follows historical precedent. After the restoration of democracy in Nepal, the Nepali Congress formed single majority governments in 1991 and 1999. With these steps underway, Nepal anticipates a stable and constitutionally grounded government, marking a significant moment in the country's democratic history.
Rashtriya Swatantra Party, that has won 182 seats in the first past the post and proportional representation system in the 275-member House, had a technical obligation to nominate 48 women in the PR system. With 125 direct seats and 57 under proportional representation, the party faces a key constitutional requirement, nominating mostly women to maintain the mandatory 33% female representation in parliament. Here's a report. Rashtriya Swatantra Party, the agent of the sweeping mandate, will not only have the burden of steering the country ahead, but the party's women lawmakers will also have to be the flag bearer in their gender in policy making. The party has secured 125 seats under the first past the post system, in which 13 are women candidates. Under Nepal's constitution, every party must ensure at least 33% combined women representation in 2 houses of federal parliament. Interestingly, the party with almost two-thirds majority in the lower house will have no representation in the National Assembly. This means RSP will have to manage all the mandatory numbers of inclusive and proportional representation from within the House of Representatives. As per the projection, RSP will have 58 seats under the PR system, making it a collective strength of 183 in the lower house. Since only 13 of the 183 possible House of Representatives members of the party are women, the party will have to nominate women candidates in 48 of the 58 PR seats to maintain the 33% women representation criteria. In that case, RSP will have altogether 61 women lawmakers in the lower house of parliament. Moreover, the selected women candidates must meet the cluster-based distribution mandated by the law provision to ensure both gender balance and social inclusion.
There should be certainty of 33% women's representation in the federal parliament. They should respect the inclusion clusters. For example, women, 33% women, then accordingly Dalits, Janajatis, backward region, Muslim, etc. Khas area, according to their number of seats, they have to submit their candidates list. Otherwise, Election Commission makes them revise those lists again.
RSP meanwhile sees this mandatory provision and need to nominate more than 80% women under the PR system as an opportunity to balance the democracy by promoting women representation.
The Constitution has demanded 33% representation of female in the parliament itself, right? But usually what happens is they are coming from the proportional seat, not from the direct election. But Rashtriya Swatantra Party had given maximum number of candidacy from the female side in direct election, right, which was 16, which is itself a less in number, which is only 11%, but still out of 16 women, 13 of them have brought massive landslide victory. They are not only victorious but landslide victory. So I think this is a good realization that women leadership era has started. People have started accepting women leadership. Coming to the gender equality, 33% is itself not enough. It should be 50%. So we will be definitely advocating for that. Having said that, before that, the 33% itself needs to be implemented for us, right? Because even the 33% has not been implemented.
Within the party, even the male winners are seeing this as the fresh mandate of the people and are eager to execute it according to the constitutional provisions.
जनताले 2/3 झन्डै मत दिए यो यसको अर्थ के हो भने जनताको ठूलो विश्वास छ, ठूलो भरोसा छ र यो परिवर्तनले मुलुकको जीवन र नागरिकको जीवनमा ठूलो परिवर्तन ल्याउँछ भन्ने उनीहरूले विश्वास गरेका छन्। एउटा चाहिँ स्थायी किसिमको सरकार नभएसम्म मुलुकमा विकास नहुँदो रहेछ, मुलुकको विकास समितिको यात्रा अगाडि नबढ्दो रहेछ भन्ने हिजोको अनुभवले आज यसपटक जनताले तिमीहरूलाई हामी स्थायी सरकार दिन्छौँ, स्थायी नेतृत्व दिन्छौँ, काम गर भनेर हामीलाई म्यान्डेट त दिइसक्यो हैन। अब यो म्यान्डेट पाइसकेपछि जनताको अपेक्षा अनुरूप हामीले सुशासन कायम गर्ने कुरामा र भ्रष्टाचार नियन्त्रण गर्ने र हिजोका दिनमा भएका भ्रष्टाचारहरूको खोजबिन गर्ने कुरामा हामीले सक्रियताका साथ काम गर्नुपर्छ। यदि त्यो क्षेत्रमा हामीले काम गर्न सकेनौँ भने फेरि जनताले हामीलाई अविश्वास गर्नेछन्।
The Election Commission is expected to submit the final report of the March 5 election to President Ramchandra Paudel within a week as the counting of votes has concluded. Public expectations are that the robust presence of women in the lower house of the parliament will not only to fulfill the constitutional provisions but also to make the representation inclusive and proportional in real terms. Nepal's newly elected parliament is set to convene soon, no later than 30 days right after the Election Commission submitted the final results of the March 5 House of Representatives election to the President. Once summoned, lawmakers will take the oath of office and elect a Speaker and Deputy Speaker within 15 days to oversee parliamentary proceedings. With the Rashtriya Swatantra Party having a single-party majority, the President will appoint its parliamentary leader as Prime Minister, who must then secure a vote of confidence in the House within 30 days to formally establish the new government. The first session of the House of Representatives will mark both the start of the new legislative term and the beginning of government formation, likely before the Nepali New Year 2083. Smita Gising Tamang explores more on this.
Nepal's newly elected parliament is expected to convene latest by the 30th day of the final results of the March 5 House of Representatives election. The final result announcement day will be counted from the time the Election Commission submits its report to the President. According to the Federal Parliament Secretariat of Nepal, as per constitutional provision, the President must summon the first meeting of the new House of Representatives within 30 days after he receives the report.
पहिला त निर्वाचनको अन्तिम मतपरिणाम सार्वजनिक भएको मितिले 30 दिनभित्र सभाको बैठक बस्नुपर्छ भन्ने संवैधानिक व्यवस्था छ। अन्तिम मत सार्वजनिक भए पछाडिको 30 दिनभित्र बस्ने गरेर नै सबै कुराको व्यवस्थापन हुन्छ।
Nepal follows a parliamentary system where the government is formed based on majority support in the lower house of bicameral parliament. The process begins once the President of Nepal formally summons the first session of the House of Representatives of Nepal. During that first meeting, newly elected lawmakers are sworn into office. The House then begins its internal processes, including the election of a Speaker and Deputy Speaker within 15 days, who will preside over parliamentary proceedings. At the same time, as per Article 76(1) of the Constitution, President appoints the parliamentary party leader of the party with majority to the post of Prime Minister and Council of Ministers under his or her chairpersonship. With the likely equation of the House of Representatives tilting towards single-party majority, there would be no need for any coalition this time around. As per constitutional provision, the newly appointed Prime Minister must then seek a vote of confidence in the lower house within 30 days, formally establishing the new government. The upcoming parliamentary session will therefore mark the beginning of both the new legislative term and the process of forming Nepal's next government. As the process demands around 30 days for the appointment of new Prime Minister in Nepal, all eyes are when will the President receive the report and summon the first meeting. The 30-day deadline is the maximum. Nepali people most likely are set to see the new Prime Minister before the Nepali New Year 2083.
Following the House of Representatives election held on March 5, 6 political parties have qualified as national parties in Nepal. The recognition of national party status has now become a major topic of discussion. Aprilagi Singh Lama looks into what legal and practical differences it makes for a party to be recognized or not recognized as a national party in Nepal's political system.
Under Nepal's mixed electoral system, a political party is recognized as a national party only if it meets two conditions. It must win at least one seat in the direct first-past-the-post election and secure at least 3% of the total votes under the proportional representation system. This means a party can win several direct seats but still fail to gain national status if it does not cross the 3% proportional vote threshold. Likewise, a party that receives more than 3% of proportional votes but fails to win at least one direct seat cannot be recognized as a national party. In the 2022 general election, CPN Unified Socialist won 10 direct seats but failed to cross the 3% proportional threshold and therefore did not qualify as a national party. In contrast, in the latest election, the Rashtriya Prajatantra Party crossed the 3% proportional vote threshold despite winning only one direct seat, allowing it to obtain national party status. National party recognition does not affect the salaries or benefits of members of parliament. However, parliamentary rules require a party to have at least 10 lawmakers in the House of Representatives to appoint an official chief whip and whip. Although some parties may gain national recognition, those with fewer than 10 MPs cannot formally appoint these positions, and such appointments are not officially recognized by the Federal Parliament Secretariat. Representatives of nationally recognized parties are generally invited to key parliamentary consultations, including meetings of the Parliamentary Business Advisory Committee and most all-party meetings called by the President or the Prime Minister. According to parliamentary rules, political parties with 2 or more elected MPs are eligible for a parliamentary party office. Parties with only one seat, as well as independent lawmakers, are not entitled to these facilities.
More than 340,000 temporary security personnel were deployed nationwide to hold the March 5 House of Representatives elections in Nepal. After completing 40 days of service, the personnel were formally bid farewell. However, in Dhankuta in eastern Nepal, authorities are planning long-term support for these election police personnel. Rosina Rai reports with local correspondent Ishwar Thapa from Dhankuta.
Temporary security personnel hired for the House of Representatives elections on March 5th have completed their 40-day service. They were formally bid farewell through various functions across the country. However, in eastern Nepal's Dhankuta, a different scene unfolded as the local government prepared to provide specialized training in various categories to link them to employment and entrepreneurial opportunities. Skill-based training programs tailored to participants' interest and conducted in collaboration with different agencies have been initiated. The training aims to guide former election security personnel toward self-employment and income-generating opportunities. Out of 149,090 security personnel deployed nationwide, 1,085 served in Dhankuta. Many were uncertain about their next steps after completing the 40-day assignment and feared returning to unemployment and daily livelihood struggles. The orientation programs held during the farewell, however, have given them hope and confidence, showing that they can pursue opportunities by enrolling in these specialized trainings under local government. Experts and officials from several institutions under provincial and local government, including the CTVT Agriculture Knowledge Center, National Commercial Agriculture Research Center, Division Forest Office, and the Cottage and Small Industries Office, shared information about opportunities in their respective sectors. In coordination with banks and financial institutions, participants were also informed about the concessional loans for their startups. This initiative aims to transform short-term employment into long-term entrepreneurship and sustainable livelihoods.
Away from the election and politics, another major issue of the week was the impact of Middle East war in aviation. Escalating tensions in the Middle East severely disrupted international flights through one of the key transit hubs in the world. This left many travelers struggling to reach their destinations, including those from Trivandrum International Airport in Kathmandu. Though the flights have resumed partially, there is no guarantee that the major airports like Dubai and Doha are safe and secure. Here's a report.
समस्या त अब फ्लाइट क्यान्सल भएको छ सबैजना अब रिस्केजुलको लागि कोही रिफन्डको लागि आउनु भएको छ अब सकेसम्म चाँडो भन्दा चाँडो मान्छेहरूलाई चाहिँ रिस्केजुल गरेर आफ्नो डेस्टिनेसन पुर्याइदिए सहज हुन्थ्यो भन्ने लाग्छ अब रिस्केजुलको लागि अनलाइन नहुने रहेछ फेरि मान्छेहरू यहाँ आउनु पर्यो लाइन बस्नु पर्यो दिनभरि लाग्ने रहेछ के यता यो चाहिँ अनलाइन गरिदिए चाहिँ अझ अलि सहज हुन्थ्यो कि मान्छेहरूलाई
This is a regular routine for many Nepali migrant workers who are knocking the doors of their flight operators to reschedule their ticket. Disruption of flights in some of the major labor destinations of Nepali migrant workers has troubled thousands who had come home on vacation. They are more worried about reaching their destination rather than personal safety, despite the conflict in the Middle East escalating by the day. Since the workers travel on a tight schedule and fear losing their job contract if they don't reach within 60 days, they are hit the panic button.
उहाँहरुको समस्या के एउटा चाहिँ त्यो मोस्ट अफ द पिपल चाहिँ अहिले उहाँहरु के भने छुट्टीमा आउनु भएको छ 1 महिना या 2 महिना धेरै कम्पनीहरुले जम्मा 2 महिना 60 दिनको भिजा दिया हुन्छ र 60 दिन भित्र त्यहाँ फर्किएन भने त्यो भिजाको चाहिँ भिजा भ्यालिड भयो भने पनि 2 महिना भित्र 60 दिन भित्र रिटर्न भएन भने त्यो अटो भिजा चाहिँ एक्सपायर हुन्छ र अटो एक्सपायर हुनु भनेको पछाडीको रोजगारी पनि गुम्नु भने यहाँबाट नेपालबाट बेसिकली मिडल इस्ट र युरोप अनि अमेरिकन डेस्टिनेसनहरुमा जाने चाहिँ मोस्ट अफ द प्यासेन्जर अथवा हामीलाई फ्लाइट भनेको अलि सस्तो पनि यही मिडल इस्ट क्यारियर नै थियो यिनीहरु नै बन्द हुँदाखेरि चाहिँ अब नेपालीहरूको त मुभमेन्ट नै बन्द भयो.
The disruption, which began on March 12, has impacted flights through major transit hubs such as Doha, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, and Jordan, also affecting passengers transiting in those destinations. As a result, hundreds of passengers have been left stranded or forced to delay their travel, creating congestion at airline counters at Tribhuvan International Airport and their head offices. Airlines operating from Nepal and the Middle East have reduced or cancelled a number of flights as the regional airspace remains partially restricted. Aviation officials say more than 75 flights have been cancelled over the past 2 weeks, leaving more than 12,000 passengers affected. Meanwhile, officials at Tribhuvan International Airport say airlines are gradually adjusting operations to minimize disruptions. Spokesperson for Tribhuvan International Airport said rescue flights are being arranged and airlines are also modifying routes to continue services.
अहिले फुल शेड्युलमा पनि फ्लाइटहरु सञ्चालन त गरेको छैन. जस्तो 4 वटा फ्लाइट छ भने 3 वटा गरिरहेको छ. 2 टा फ्लाइटहरु गरेछ भने एउटा. अब जति आएको छ अहिले चाहिँ धेरै स्ट्यान्डर्ड प्यासेन्जरहरुलाई गरिरहेको छ. एयरलाइन्सहरुसँग पनि हामी क्लोज कोअर्डिनेसनमा छौं र उनीहरुले पनि अब नोटिस निकालिरहेको छ यो फ्लाइट हुन्छ यो हुँदैन र अब उनीहरुलाई पनि त्यो कुन दिनमा कसको फ्लाइटहरु हुन्छ भन्ने कुराहरु नि उनीहरुले पब्लिक नोटिस पनि जारी गरेकोले उनीहरुलाई सबै प्यासेन्जरहरुलाई चाहिँ एकदम हेल्प गरिरहनु भएको छ अहिले.
As of Thursday evening, only 3 rescue flights, 1 each from Nepal Airlines, Himalaya Airlines and Air Arabia, have landed at Tribhuvan International Airport, ferrying stranded passengers at Dubai Airport. According to the TIA, 2 flights, one of Fly Dubai and another of Air Arabia, have been scheduled to depart to Dubai on Thursday. Authorities say they are closely monitoring developments in the Middle East and coordinating with airlines to ensure passengers are assisted as the airspace over major labor destination of Nepali migrant workers struggles to operate. That's the perspective for this week. We will be back next week with major highlights of the week. Thank you for watching NTV World.
It is no more the remote far west, but the wonderful west. Nine districts are in the far west province, from the low-lying Tarai to the heightening mountains. Climatically, the province has all tropical weather conditions prevailing in Nepal. This makes the province a paradise for tourists of all interests. Khaptad, Badi Malika, Api and Saipal mountains, Surmi and Ghodagodi lakes, Ramarosan area, Dodara Chandani, Sukla Fata Wildlife Reserve, Tikapur Botanical Garden, Amargari Fort. Dhangadi, the province headquarters, is the gateway to the state. The business hub of the far west region, Dhangadi, is becoming well equipped for political, trade and business infrastructures and other human resources. The far west region of Nepal is blessed with natural beauty. Any traveler is attracted by this epitome of beauty and a gift of Mother Nature. In addition to the natural beauty of the region, you can see the human civilizations rich in culture and arts throughout the province. The people of this region enjoy their unique lifestyle identified by their culture, language and religion. The Far West region has the wealth of nature, culture and religious uniqueness to offer to every traveler. Kaptard. The Kaptard National Park, spreading across 4 districts of Doti, Acham, Bajang and Bajura of the Far West province, is situated at an altitude of 3,000 meters above the sea level. The natural splendor and breathtaking views revealing geography's diversity is a sight to remember for every nature lover. This is the land of penance where Kaptard Baba lived for 50 years in his pursuit of knowledge and enlightenment. There are 22 Pathans and the famous Triveni temple in Kaptard. The natural splendor of Kaptard area is attracting many domestic and foreign tourists by the day. Trekking in the Kaptard region is a lifetime experience, especially with the numerous species of birds, wildlife, flora and fauna in the numerous trails. Kaptard is the meeting point of 4 districts, Doti, Acham, Bazang and Basura, a chaste land of Kaptard Baba, an important place for religious tourism. Special prayers and worship are offered in the place during the famous Dasara fair. Some of the major attractions in the region. Badi Malika. Situated 4,200 meters above the sea level, Badi Malika is a famous religious site in remote Bajura district of the Far West province. The annual fair on the occasion of Janai Purnima draws thousands of devotees at the Badi Malika temple. Lush green meadows, pure waterfalls and whistling ravines flowing downstream are the major attractions of the natural wonder. Thousands of domestic and foreign tourists flock the temple every year during the fair and other times as well. Badi Malika is popular among people in the Far West and Karnali provinces. However, few people from Kathmandu and Gadwal of India also visit this site for pilgrimage. The famous pilgrimage site in Bajura district of Far West province, Badi Malika. There is a popular belief that offering worship to deity Badi Malika fulfills one's wishes. Large fair takes place every year on Janai Purnima. The Badi Malika temple on top of a hill. The 22 patans, various species of flowers, panoramic view of the mountain range. Only a few small tea shops are seen as amenities in this area. One can reach Badi Malika by taking a flight from Nepalganj to Kolti airport of Bajura. Day-long drive from Kolti followed by 3 days of walk. Suklafata National Park is a world-famous destination for those interested in wildlife. The main attraction of the park is the large grassy meadows where the barasingas are seen in big numbers. The flock in the park is said to be the largest in the world. The park is home to 46 mammals, including endangered Bengal tiger, elephant, and anjir, and over 423 species of birds. The national park offers elephant ride and jungle safari to tourists as major recreational activities. The national park along Nepal-India border in Kanchanpur district, famous for watching wild elephants and barasinga, a heaven for wildlife enthusiasts. The attractions: grassy meadows, swamps and wetlands. Ramaroshan, located in Acham district of Nepal at an altitude of 2500 meters above the sea level. Ramaroshan is a jewel for tourists in the Far West province. A place having 18 patch of meadows, locally known as Patans, is a major tourism destination. The beautiful Ramaroshan Lake is the major attraction for tourists here. This area is the only habitat of national bird of Nepal, Daffy, or the Lophophorus. The rhododendron forest along the trails leading to the lake rejuvenates every traveler. Amargadi Fort. Amargadi Fort is a historic castle in Amargadi municipality of Danildura. This fort is an important site of historical, archaeological, political, religious, social and cultural aspects. The fort that witnessed the bravery of Kaji Amar Singh Thapa in the unification campaign of Nepal is strategically located at the top of a hill in the district headquarters of Dadildura. General Thapa established his administrative headquarters in the fort itself during the unification campaign. This is an interesting site for researchers and archaeological explorers. Mostly domestic and Indian tourists visit this fort. The Far West province has dozens of existing and new tourism destinations. From a breathtaking mountain range to famous temples, The province has tourism destinations for all types of travelers to engage them for even a month. As many tourism destinations are in Far West Province, so is the potential of the province. Most of the tourists in the province come for travel and research. However, lack of proper infrastructures discourage many enthusiasts. The Far West Province has not been able to welcome desired number of tourists in the absence of the amenities. The number of foreign tourists entering Nepal via custom points in the Far West Province has seen some increment of late. But most of them hardly spend a day or two there. After entering Nepal from Kailali or Kanchanpur, most of the tourists head towards the east for capital Kathmandu or Pokhara or some other destinations. After the centralized system of governance changed to federalism, the possibilities of development has increased with the full authority now in local levels. One immediate such possibility is the trekking trail. If only the 5 proposed tourism corridors, Khakrola, Tikapur, Karnali, Badimalika, Khutia, Bipinagar, Tel Lake, Khaptar, Dhangadi, Budar, Saipal, Mahakali River and Jhulaghat, Mursa can be developed as per provincial government's plan, it could contribute to the national mission of prosperity through tourism. Many other destinations can be developed into touristic sites to welcome domestic as well as foreign tourists. The artist's geography might be discouraging, but the nature has blessed the region with glory. This is why tourism can be the base for prosperity for Far West Province. It is no more the remote Far West, but the wonderful West. Is undoubtedly #1 destination for tourists in Nepal. The valley, blessed with natural beauty, attracts domestic and foreign tourists alike. You must have already visited Pokhara. If you haven't or planning another trip, then these are some of the must-go places in Pokhara. The first attraction in Pokhara is the Feva Lake. Boating in Feva Lake is a ritual for every tourist visiting this paradise. The Tal Barahi temple at the center of the lake adds to the beauty of the place. A round-trip boat ride in Feva Lake to and from the temple is a feature of both the lake as well as the temple. Separate boat ride, watching the reflection of Mount Machapuchri on the lake and fishing
spice up the Fiva experience. The lakeside along the banks of the Fiva Lake is a popular tourist hub. Many tourists in Pokhara choose Devi's Fall as their second destination in Pokhara. The water from Fiva Lake exits towards Seti River through the Gupteshwar cave from this Devi's Fall. The mighty water stream rushing deep down into the gorge, covered by water vapor, is a magical sight. Pokhara is known as the city of lakes and caves. Many of the lakes and caves have religious importance. This is Gupteshwar cave at Chorepatan area. Inside the cave, the idol of Lord Shiva is a well-known pilgrimage. Further inside the cave, one can see the Devi's Fall. Mahendra Cave is another famous place in Pokhara, and nearby is another well-known Chamere cave. Both the caves can be visited together. Two other well-known tourist destinations in Pokhara are Begnas and Rupa lakes. Fresh fish of Begnas lake is a sought-after delicacy. Rupa lake is just round the corner beyond a small hill towards the eastern edge of Begnas lake. Away from the hustle and bustle of the town, Begnas and Rupa lakes cannot be taken out of a tourist's itinerary. This is the famous White Monastery on top of the hill above Fiva Lake. This is also a popular destination for domestic as well as foreign tourists. The top-angle bird's-eye view of Pokhara city from the monastery is a sight to behold. The placid Fiva Lake, the tall mountain range, and the birds like paragliding pilots on the background of Sarankot Hill are mesmerizing. The Bindabasini temple in Pokhara is a famous shrine in Nepal. The best route to visit the temple is on the way to Sarankot. Devotees throng the Bindabasini temple, which is atop a small hill with panoramic view of Pokhara city. The Bindabasini temple is famous among the Hindus across the country. Sarankot is a hill station on top of a hill on the northwestern side of Pokhara. A must-go place to see the majestic Mount Machapuchre and Mount Dhaulagiri in the Annapurna range in front of the eyes, and also the Pokhara and Leknath cities on the other side. Sarankot is synonymous to paragliding in Nepal. Taking off from the Sarankot hill, one can enjoy the panoramic mountain range in addition to the bird's eye view of Pokhara city. Ultralight and zip flyer offer a thrill to adventure seekers in Pokhara and are becoming major interests for tourists. Other places, including Swarak in Sangja, have the potential to be world's best place for paragliding. First time in Nepal, Paragliding Accuracy World Cup was held at this place, situated at Mahapur of Virkot municipality of the district. The place drew global attention after the event.
Election Commission to certify PR lawmakers this Thursday. Final report for President Hori to clear way for government formation. 8 dead as pre-monsoon storms and lightning caused 20 million rupees in damages. Experts urge public to stay indoors. ILO report warns of employment risks as Nepal nears LDC graduation. Government urged to protect vulnerable sectors. At least 23 dead as coordinated suicide bombings rock Maiduguri during Ramadan. Security beefed up. Israel claims assassination of Iran's national security chief and Basij commander in Tehran strikes. Iran yet to respond. And tonight, decisive Champions League knockout match on the schedule. Chelsea and Manchester City fight for survival against continental leaders. Good evening, I'm Shivani Thapa Bosnet and this is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour. We're coming to you from Kathmandu live at 2200 as Nepali Standard Time. The details now. The Election Commission of Nepal has announced that certificates will be distributed to 110 newly elected proportional representation PR members of the House of Representatives coming Thursday. According to Assistant Spokesperson Kulbahadur GC, preparations are underway to award the certificates following the legal clusters defined by the Commission. Based on the final results released yesterday, the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, that's RSP, secured a significant 57 PR seats, followed by the Nepali Congress with 20, CPN UML with 16, and the CPN Maoist Centre with 9. I come back to this again. The Communist Party, the Nepali Communist Party with 9. The Shram Shakti Party and Rashtriya Prajatantra Party RPP won 4 seats each. Once the certificates are issued, the Commission will submit the final consolidated report of the 2026 general election to President Ramchandra Paudel. This formal submission will clear the path for the President to call for the formation of a new government under Article 76(1) of the Constitution. An extreme weather system bringing hailstorms and heavy rain has swept across Nepal, leaving several people dead, others injured and causing widespread damage. Farmers in western Gulmi report significant crop losses, while in other areas the rainfall has offered some relief, helping preparations for the planting season. More on this will come later in the bulletin. For now, on to the rest of the major headliners of the day. Nepal is officially set to graduate from least developed country status in November 2026. The country qualified by consistently meeting United Nations benchmarks for human development and economic stability, finally crossing the income threshold in 2021. However, organizations like the ILO are raising flags about the transition. They warn that losing trade preferences could slash exports by up to 4.3%, hitting the garment and textile sectors hardest. Experts emphasize that while graduation is a milestone of progress, Nepal must now urgently upgrade its workforce and strengthen domestic industries to survive in a more competitive market globally. More on this will come later in the bulletin in our issue of the day. Suspected Boko Haram suicide bombers carried out a series of coordinated attacks in Maiduguri of Nigeria on Monday evening, killing at least 23 people and wounding over 100 others. The blasts targeted a busy market, a teaching hospital, and a post office area just as residents were breaking their Ramadan fasts. In response to the tragedy, President Bola Tinubu, who is preparing for a state visit to the United Kingdom, ordered top security chiefs to relocate to Maiduguri immediately to oversee the situation. Military officials have warned of an increased threat of attacks during the final days of the holy month as jihadist groups appear to be intensifying their campaign despite recent military operations in the Sambisa forest. The violence marks a significant breach of the relatively calm that had returned to the Borno state capital in recent years. Israel's defense minister Israel Katz has said that Iran's security chief Ali Larijani and the head of its paramilitary Basij force had been killed in a strike. While Iran has yet to comment on this, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said the killing was part of efforts to give Iranians a chance to remove their rulers.
הבוקר חיסלנו את עלי לריג'ני. עלי לריג'ני זה הבוס של משמרות המהפכה, שזה חבורת הגנגסטרים שמנהלת בפועל את איראן. אנחנו חיסלנו לצידו גם את מפקד הבסיס, זה העוזרים של הגנגסטרים, שהם מפיצים טרור ברחובות טהרן וערים אחרות של איראן נגד האוכלוסייה. אנחנו מערערים את המשטר הזה בתקווה לתת לעם האיראני הזדמנות לסלק אותו. זה לא יקרה בפעם אחת, זה לא יקרה בקלות, אבל אם נתמיד בזה, אנחנו ניתן להם הזדמנות שהם יוכלו לקחת את גורלם בידיהם.
Meanwhile, Trump administration's top official on counterterrorism has resigned from his position, citing opposition to the war in Iran, and urged the president to reverse course. In a letter posted on Tuesday to his X account, National Counterterrorism Center Director Joe Kent said that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States and claimed that the Trump administration started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Kent, 45, is a U.S. Special Forces and CIA veteran. The second leg of UEFA Champions League round of 16 is being held today and tomorrow as Europe's top clubs prepare for decisive knockout clashes. In today's first match, Portuguese club Sporting faces Norwegian club Bodø Glimt in what promises to be a tightly contested fixture. In a series of high-profile matchups, English club Chelsea takes on defending champions Paris Saint-Germain later tonight. Likewise, another English club, Manchester City, meets Spanish club Real Madrid in another closely watched clash tonight. Kylian Mbappe is returning from injury as Real aim to eliminate Manchester City in the Champions League last 16 second leg. Another key fixture tonight sees German club Bayer Leverkusen face English side Arsenal. The results of these second leg matches will determine which clubs advance to the quarterfinals of Europe's most prestigious club competition. From a decade of development to a 2026 deadline, Nepal is finally ready to shed its least developed label. But as the country climbs the global ladder, is the economy ready for the fall in trade perks? We look at the milestones achieved and the urgent warnings from the ILO on our issue of the day right after this short break. Welcome to the issue of the day segment here on News Hour. On November this year, Nepal is set to mark a significant milestone with least developed country LDC graduation. Nepal first met the thresholds for the Human Assets Index HAI and the Economic and Environmental Vulnerability Index EVI in 2015, demonstrating significant progress in health, education and economic stability against external shocks. While it took longer to meet the wealth requirement, Nepal finally crossed the gross national income GNI per capita threshold in the 2021 review, surpassing the $1,222 target and solidifying its readiness to transition out of the LDC category. Nepal's upcoming graduation from least developed country status in 2026 is being seen as a major milestone, but a new ILO report warns it could put thousands of jobs at risk with women likely to be hit the hardest. Vijeta Bhandari takes a look on the issue and the way forward as recommended in the report.
To qualify for graduation from least developed country status, countries must meet key development benchmarks, including income, human assets, and economic stability. Nepal is set to leave the least developed country category in 2026, marking a significant step forward in development. But according to new employment impact assessment by the International Labour Organization, the move could lead to job losses and economic strain in the short term. The report estimates that Nepal's exports could decline, ranging from 2.5 to 4.3% after graduation, as the country loses preferential trade access and faces higher tariffs in key markets. This is expected to hit export-driven industries the hardest, particularly garments, textiles, and carpets. As a result, up to 132,000 jobs could be lost over the next 5 years in a worst-case scenario, with the manufacturing sector bearing the brunt. But the impact will not be equal. Women are expected to be disproportionately affected, making up nearly half of the projected job losses in manufacturing, where many are in informal or low-paid positions with limited protection. The report warns that job losses could trigger a reverse migration of women from urban areas back to rural communities, where employment opportunities are often scarce, informal, or even unpaid. This could deepen existing gender inequalities in the labor market, where women already face lower participation rates and fewer opportunities. The study also highlights risk to formal employment, raising concerns about increasing job insecurity and informality. However, the report points to possible solutions. Targeted investments in sectors like tourism, trade facilitation, and digital industries could help offset the losses. Among these, tourism shows the strongest potential to recover jobs, while trade-related interventions could provide better outcomes for women. The report urges early action, calling for skills development, stronger labor protections, and policies to support the vulnerable workers. As Nepal prepares for this transition, the report highlights the need of strong policies and solid groundwork so that this progress does not leave anyone, and especially women, behind.
Coming up next, the devastating impact of last night's hailstorms and a look at why this year's pre-monsoon is proving so destructive. We have the full story on the lives lost and the millions in damages in our cover story right after this short break. Welcome back yet again. It's time for our cover story. Natural disasters continue to take a heavy toll each year, claiming lives and causing widespread damage across the country. This year is no exception. Even before a month has passed since the onset of the pre-monsoon season, strong winds and lightning strikes have already killed 8 people. Preliminary estimates suggest that windstorms alone have caused property damage worth nearly 20 million rupees. As extreme weather events grow more frequent, concerns over preparedness and response are once again in a sharp focus. Siksha Patrai brings you more.
As February fades into March, Nepal enters the pre-monsoon season, a time when the skies grow restless and the hills become particularly vulnerable. From mid-February to the end of May, the country often experiences hail, thunderstorms and sudden gusts of wind, especially across the hill and mid-mountain regions. These storms are influenced by western low-pressure system that sweeps across the country, bringing unpredictable weather to areas from the east to west. Afternoons and evenings are often the most intense, when lightning streaks across the sky and hail rattles rooftops. Meteorologists have observed that these pre-monsoon storms are far more frequent in the hills than in the Tarai Plains or the high mountains. Authorities, including the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority, urged residents to take precautions, advising people to remain indoors in the evenings except for essential work and to stay alert to weather updates.
चाहिँ हावाहुरी चल्न लागेको छ भने हामी घरबाट बाहिर ननिस्किने भएसम्म त्यो सिजनमा यदि बाहिर छौं भने पनि यस्ता अलिकति भत्केका कमसल संरचनाहरूको तल तारहरू झुन्डेका तारहरू बिजुलीका पोलहरू हैन रुखको मुनि यसरी चाहिँ बस्नु हुँदैन त्यो भयो भने ती संरचनाहरू ती चीजबिजहरू चाहिँ झरेर लाग्ने हैन आफुलाई चाहिँ असर पर्ने हुन्छ भने त्यहाँ केही पनि छैन अलिकति बलियो संरचना छ भने संरचना भित्र गएर बस्नु पर्यो आफू अलिकति सुरक्षित हुनलाई पनि बलियो ठाउँ कहाँ छ संरचना कहाँ छ त्यहाँ भित्र गएर केही समय त्यो नरोकुन्जेल बस्नु पर्यो भने अब त्यहाँ केही संरचनाहरू छैन ओपन ठाउँमा छौं भने हामीले चाहिँ थचक्क बसेर टाउको दुईटा हात टाउकोमा राखेर टाउको निहुराएर बस्नुपर्ने हुन्छ.
The Department of Hydrology and Meteorology has noted that western low pressure systems continue to influence the country, raising the likelihood of more storms, hail and rain in the days ahead, particularly in the hilly and mountainous regions.
कम प्रभाव पर्छ तर कहीं अलिकति ठूलो खालको मासहरु छ यदि तराईबाट इन्ड्युस भएको छ भने अलिकति हुरी बतासहरु आउने तराईमा त्यस्तो हुन सक्छ तर बढी चाहिँ यो चाहिँ यस्तो खालको बादलहरु चाहिँ हामी के ओरोग्राफी लिफ्टिङ भन्छौं जहाँ पहाडी भूभागहरु छ त्यो ठाउँमा चाहिँ दिनभरि घाम लागेर तातिसकेपछि त्यहाँ चाहिँ जलवाष्पहरु माथि उडेर जानको लागि त्यो पहाडले सपोर्ट गर्छ त्यो भावनाले पहाडी भूभागमा बढी यसको प्रभाव देखिन्छ विशेष गरी यसको बेलामा चाहिँ बेलुकातिर हुन्छ त्यो भावनाले यदि बेलुकातिर कालो बादल मडारिएको छ हैन धेरै चाहिँ के हुरी बतास टाइपको छ भने हामी घर भित्रै बस्नुपर्छ सुरक्षित हुनुपर्छ किन भन्दाखेरि रुखहरु ढल्ने चान्सेस हुन्छ हैन यस्तो बेलामा चाहिँ यस्तो झरी टाइपको यस्तो चाहिँ भारी वर्षा भन्दा पनि छोटो समयमा एकैताली चाहिँ हुरी बतास आइदिने चट्याङहरु पर्ने सम्भावना बढिरहन्छ.
While they are a familiar part of Nepal's seasonal cycle, this year the storms have already claimed 8 lives, 5 from hail and 3 from lightning, serving as a stark reminder of nature's power.
An extreme weather system bringing hailstorms and heavy rain has swept across Nepal, leaving several people dead, others injured and causing widespread damage. Farmers in western Gulmi report significant crop losses, while in other areas the rainfall has offered some relief, helping preparations for the planting season. Rojina Rai reports.
Recent extreme weather in Nepal, including powerful windstorms and hail, has caused widespread damage, claimed lives and affected infrastructure as well as crops that were ready to harvest or plant. Authorities have begun assessing the destruction and preparing response efforts in the aftermath. A severe windstorm caused significant damage in several districts, with Dhankuta, Udaipur in the east and Butwal, Gulmi among other western districts the hardest hit. The federal capital Kathmandu also suffered extreme weather pattern affecting daily lives and infrastructure damages. In the east, storm struck Katari in Udaipur district on Monday evening, killing 2 people and injuring 6 others. The storm uprooted trees and caused extensive destruction in the area. The victims have been identified as 64-year-old Birendra Chaudhary and 49-year-old Meena Maya Tamang. Chaudhary was killed when a fallen tree crossed a roadside grocery shop along the Madan Bhandari highway, while Tamang lost her life after being struck by a falling tree branch while tending her livestock. Several others, including a young child, sustained injuries and receiving treatment at the hospital. Dhankuta district also experienced major disruption as strong winds knocked down trees and power poles, leaving many households without electricity. Repairing teams from the Nepal Electricity Authority are working to restore services, prioritizing major transmission lines. Likewise, a severe storm has hit Jhapa and Ilam, damaging residential homes, livestock shelters, and crops. Roofs of over 100 houses in Suryodaya municipality were blown off. Electricity, telephone and internet services have been disrupted, making full damage assessment difficult. So far, losses worth 2.7 million Nepali rupees is reported. Over 350 transformers are affected, leaving much of the district without power. In Western Nepal's Gulmi district, heavy rainfall and hailstorms have damaged growing crops, causing concern among farmers over losses in vegetables, fruits, and cash crops. However, the rainfall has improved soil moisture, offering some relief, particularly in hilly areas where maize planting is underway. The recent precipitation is expected to support upcoming agricultural activities despite the storm-related damage. Rosina Rai reporting for NTV World.
Today in our Public Pulse segment, we asked Denizens how did the recent storm affected them. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
15 मिनेटको हावाहुरीले गर्दाखेरि अब यो छाना हाम्रो उडाएर अब यो पर बाटोमा पुराको छ अनि अब यो बस्ने स्थिति केही छैन भित्र अब बस्ने हुनै छैन समस्या त्यस्तो छ टिनहरु उडाएर पर खल्चामै पुराको छ अनि त्यसपछि यहाँ भित्रको अब एकदम हिजो बेलुका अब पानी चुइरा अब छानै नभएपछि पानी त चुइहाल्छ हैन
यहाँ चाहिँ अब एकैछिन त्यो भुमरी भयो जस्तो भुमरी परे जस्तो आयो हुरु आयो के अब कतै के आँखा केही जोगाउने केही पाइएन केटाकेटीलाई झन् खाटा मुनितिर हालेर केटाकेटी जोगाए त आफू त जोगिहाल्यो केटाकेटीलाई र उता गर्दा कोठाभित्र बसेर बस्यो भने
14 वडाबाट चाहिँ घरहरू उडाएको गोठ उडाएको हैन र विभिन्न चाहिँ ट्रसहरू उडाएको खालको विवरणहरू चाहिँ अहिले हामी नगरपालिकामा आइराखेको छ र हामीले अहिले विपदको एउटा पूर्व तयारीको लागि बैठक गरिबस्छौँ त्यसले चाहिँ अब आवश्यक पाल प्रगटपाटा लगायत अन्य कुराहरूलाई खरिद गर्ने भनेर एक प्रकारको छलफल भइसकेको छ र अहिले विवरण कलेक्सन भइरहेको छ हावा त अत्यन्तै ठुलो
यो चाहिँ अब हिजोको हावाहुरीले चाहिँ यहाँ कच्ची घरहरू सबै उडाइदिएको छन् अब कच्ची घरहरू हुन्छन् नि च्यादरका घरहरू उडाइदिएको छन् यसो बोट बिरुवाहरू बाटोहरू बिजुली हिजोदेखि गएको अहिलेसम्म पनि आएको छैन अनि यो नर्सरीहरू सबै उडाइदिएको छन् अब यसमा चाहिँ अब सम्बन्धित निकायको ध्यान जाओस् भन्ने मेरो चाहिँ एउटा धारणा छ
बत्तीको कारणबाट अब कहिले बन्नेला कहाँ रुख लडेको होला त्यसको कारणबाट धेरै समयसम्ममा अब इन्डस्ट्रीहरू पनि तपाईँको डिजलबाट हुनेले जेनेरेटर हुनेले चलाएर एकदम हाई कस्टिङमा जाने हुन्छ र साथसाथै सानसानो जेनेरेटर नहुने इन्डस्ट्रीहरू बन्दा रहनेछ यसमा तपाईँ किसानको फर्स्ट क्लासमा हुर्किएको एकदम किम्ती पत्ती पनि हिजोको हुन्डरीको कारणबाट सबै मुनाहरू झरेको छ
यति लगानी लगाएर गरिएको छ यो खेती अब हेर्नु न लडेर यस्तो छ सरकारले अहिलेसम्म केही न गाउँपालिकाबाट केही आएको छ हेर्नलाई न केही छ अब लगानी थुप्रो भएको छ सबै मकै लडाएको छ हावापानीले अब के गर्ने अब सरकारले अब यसो अब हामी किसानहरूलाई के अलिकति हेर्दै हुन्थ्यो भन्ने चाहिँ हाम्रो अब किसानहरूको माग हो
घरमा चाहिँ मेरो यो किचनमा चाहिँ जुन किचनमा भएको सामानहरू टिनदेखि लिएर लगायत सबै भित्रको सामानहरूदेखि टुट्ने फुट्नेदेखि लिएर सबै अब हालत स्थितिमा छ
In other major developments of the day, the Rashtriya Swatantra Party has launched a 2-day intensive training for its 182 newly elected lawmakers following the March 2026 elections. During the inauguration, Vice Chairs Dol Prasad Aryal and Swarnim Wagle emphasized the need for accountability and preserving public trust after securing nearly 2/3 majority. While Chairman Ravi Lamichhane and Senior Leader Balendra Shah were absent from the opening, the orientation continues with a focus on legislative processes, policy formulation and parliamentary practices to prepare the new representatives for government. Two Indian nationals were arrested with 3,160 grams of cannabis-like substance at the Trivandrum International Airport last night. after arriving from Bangkok on a Nepal Airlines flight. In a separate incident, one person was arrested with brown sugar from Nagdhunga of Chandragiri Municipality, Ward number 2, according to the Central Police Newsroom. Additionally, arrests were made from various areas. One was arrested from Belodi Municipality, Ward number 6 in Kanchanpur, 3 from Sarakghat, People Chautara in the same municipality, 2 from the Ward number 8 and 1 from Bhimdatta Municipality, Ward number 11. Likewise, 2 individuals were detained with brown sugar from Badayatal Rural Municipality in Bardia, 2 from Baya Bihari Dhangari Metropolitan City, 3 from Trinagar, 2 from Lumbini Sanskritik Municipality in Rupandehi, and 1 from Baglung Bus Park in Pokhara Metropolitan City. The Supreme Court is set to hear the writ petition against the decision to withdraw the money laundering and organized crime cases against Rashtriya Swatantra Party RSP President Ravi Lamichhane for coming Thursday. The hearing on the cases had started before the divisional bench of Justice duo Saranga Subedi and Sunil Kumar Pokhrel since last Sunday. As the hearing could not be completed today either, Apex Court spokesperson Arjun Prasad Koirala informed that the hearing would take place soon on March 19. Earlier, the divisional bench of Supreme Court Justices Sapana Pradhan Malla and Srikanta Paudel had ordered the petition be scheduled for regular hearing on March 15. It may be noted that Attorney General Sabita Bhandari Baral had decided to withdraw the cases of money laundering and organized crime filed against Lamichhane during the erstwhile government's tenure. Against the decision, Yuvraj Paudel, senior advocate Dinesh Tripathi and advocate Abhas Regmi had filed separate writ petitions in the Supreme Court. Coming up next are the international headliners, but for now, a quick recap of the headlines. Election Commission to certify PR lawmakers this Thursday. Final report for President Pavel to clear way for new government formation. A dead as pre-monsoon storms and lightning caused 20 million rupees in damages. Experts urge public to stay indoors during evenings. ILO report warns of employment risks as Nepal nears LDC graduation. Government urged to protect vulnerable sectors during the transition. At least 23 dead as coordinated suicide bombings rock Maiduguri during Ramadan. President orders security be beefed up. Israel claims assassination of Iran's national security chief and Basij commander in Tehran strikes. Iran yet to respond. And tonight, decisive Champions League knockout match on the schedule. Chelsea and Manchester City fight for survival against continental leaders. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer in the United Kingdom today to finalize a landmark defense partnership focused on counter-drone technology. The agreement aims to merge Ukraine's frontline battlefield expertise with the UK's industrial capacity to mass-produce cheap attack and interceptor drones. As the Russian invasion enters its 4th year, the UK has also pledged £500,000 to establish an AI Centre of Excellence in Kiev. This diplomatic push comes at a challenging time for Ukraine as rising oil prices bolster Russia's economy and global attention is increasingly divided by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. President Zelensky, who is currently touring European capitals, emphasized that while military partnerships are vital, the ultimate key to peace remains increased international pressure on the Kremlin. Further in the international front, British Health Minister Wes Streeting has labelled a meningitis outbreak in Canterbury unprecedented following the deaths of 2 students and the hospitalisation of 13 others. The outbreak, centred in the city of Kent, has been linked to a club chemistry, a popular 3-storey venue frequented by the local student population. Health officials confirmed that of the 15 cases reported so far, 4 involved the highly dangerous meningitis B strain. In response, the University of Kent has established emergency clinics to provide preventative antibiotics, while a targeted vaccination program is being rolled out for students in campus halls. The UK Health Security Agency is currently under scrutiny for its timeline in notifying the public, though officials maintain that urgent action was taken to track close contacts. Global oil prices extended gains today as the ongoing Middle East conflict and disruption at the Strait of Hormuz fueled fears of tightening supplies, with Brent crude up about 2.5% to $102.69 a barrel, and US West Texas Intermediate rising roughly 2.6% to $95.92. The rise reflects mounting concerns over supply bottlenecks through the strategic oil shipping route amid attacks on tankers and regional instability, underlining the market's sensitivity to geopolitical risk. Increased volatility pushed prices above key psychological levels, prompting traders to price in elevated risk premiums if disruptions persist. Meanwhile, Donald Trump continues to call on other nations, particularly NATO allies, to help secure the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil shipping route. He warned that any disruption could trigger a global energy crisis and urged coordinated international patrols to ensure safe passage for commercial vessels. Dozens of people are feared dead or injured at a drug treatment center in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, after an airstrike that the Taliban government blamed on Pakistan. The center in Kabul was hit on Monday evening, killing some people and injuring others, the government spokesperson said on social media platform X. A Taliban government spokesperson claimed the death toll reached at least 400, but the figures have not been independently verified. Pakistan denied striking any health facility, saying it precisely targeted military installations and terrorist support infrastructure in Kabul and the eastern province of Nangarhar. Some 2,000 people were being treated there, according to officials at the facility, who believe there could be hundreds of casualties. In another key development in the international front, US President Donald Trump says he has asked China to delay his summit with Xi Jinping at the start of April by around a month while he deals with the war in Iran. The summit, due to take place in Beijing from March 31 to up to April 2nd, was expected to cover economic ties and strategic issues between the two countries. Trump told reporters from the Oval Office that he has asked Beijing to delay the meeting by a month or so he can oversee U.S. strategy on the Iran conflict, which he described as demanding his presence at home.
我们注意到美方已就媒体的不实报道公开作出澄清，表示有关报道是完全错误的，强调访问与霍尔木兹海峡通航问题无关。
Further in the international front, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian has said that China and the United States are in communication with each other regarding the date of President Donald Trump's China visit. Lin said this responding to an inquiry about certain media's reports that Trump said his visit to China might be postponed if China doesn't provide assistance in escorting the Strait of Hormuz. That is all we have for you in the international front. For now, we take a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking into the business updates.
Senior Chinese trade negotiator Li Chengjiang has said senior officials from China and the United States concluded in-depth and constructive economic and trade consultations for 2 days in Paris. Li added the two sides agreed that a stable bilateral trade relations benefit both the countries and the global economy. Discussions covered tariffs, investment promotion, and mechanisms to manage disputes. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasized that talks aim to prevent retaliation and maintain stability ahead of President Donald Trump's planned visit to Beijing. The sessions also addressed lingering U.S. trade measures against China, including Section 301 investigations, import surcharges, and market restrictions. Chinese officials urged Washington to remove unilateral tariffs and promised to safeguard China's economic interests. Both sides agreed to explore a bilateral cooperation mechanism, continue consultations, and strengthen dialogue to promote sustainable, stable economic and trade relations. Sri Lanka has declared every Wednesday a holiday for public institutions to conserve fuel as the island nation grapples with possible shortages in the wake of the US and Israel's war with Iran. Authorities picked Wednesday instead of Friday as the additional off day so that government offices would not be closed for 3 days in a row. But it will not affect state institutions providing essential services such as the health and immigration authorities, the officials say. Motorists are also now required to register for a national fuel pass, which rations the amount of fuel that people can buy. This is the latest in a series of belt-tightening measures undertaken by Asian countries since the war choked up the Strait of Hormuz, which used to carry millions of barrels of oil from the Gulf into the region. Nearly 90% of all the oil and gas flowing through the strait last year was bound for Asia, which is the world's largest oil importing region. NVIDIA is organizing 2026 GTC Developers Conference in California, bringing together software developers, researchers, and industry leaders to explore the latest advances in artificial intelligence, graphics, and high-performance computing. Jensen Huang, the company's founder and chief executive officer, opened the event with a keynote highlighting NVIDIA's AI roadmap. The conference will feature sessions on AI model training, interference, generative AI, autonomous systems, and enterprise applications. NVIDIA officials also showcased new hardware and software platforms designed to accelerate AI workloads and cloud-based services. It is said the GTC conference remains a key platform for NVIDIA to demonstrate technological leadership and expand its influence across emerging AI-driven markets. Chinese manufacturers are stepping up efforts to break the long-standing dominance of Western companies in the global snowmaking industry, targeting a lucrative market driven by the rapid expansion of winter tourism. At Lianhuashan ski resort in northern China, slopes that have relied on aging European snow cannons for over 2 decades are now being supplemented with domestically produced equipment. This season marks the resort's first use of a Chinese-made snow gun manufactured by Beijing-based Carving Ski. It is said locally produced machine cost roughly 1/3 less than comparable Western models, offering a significant price advantage in an industry where snowmaking infrastructure is a major investment. China's push into snowmaking technology comes as the country continues to invest heavily in winter sports infrastructure, a trend accelerated by the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. The shift reflects a broader strategy by Chinese manufacturers to reduce reliance on foreign technology and capture a larger share of high-value industrial sectors, even as global competition intensifies.
And now the sporting updates. Two Iranian women footballers train with the Australian club Brisbane Roar after seeking asylum in the country. 7 members of Iran's football delegation competing in the Women's Asian Cup sought sanctuary in Australia last week after they were branded traitors at home for refusing to sing the national anthem at their opening game. Only two, Fatebe Pasandide and Atefe Rameza Nishade, remain in Australia after the others changed their minds and decided to return. The pair are continuing their professional development with Brisbane Roar while navigating the asylum process. Their case has drawn international attention, highlighting the challenges faced by athletes who speak out against political pressures at home. A-division clubs have intensified their protest against the All Nepal Football Association ANFA, staging a sit-in at the ANFA headquarters in Satobato. The clubs accuse the football governing body of unilaterally scheduling the Martyrs Memorial A-division league to begin on April 13 without their consent or adherence to previous agreements. Since Monday, the clubs have been demanding the fulfillment of a 7-point list of grievances, claiming that ANFA has failed to honor past commitments. Although talks were held between club officials and ANFA leadership yesterday, no agreement was reached, leading to continued demonstrations. This unrest follows concerns from the Nepal Football Players Association regarding the lack of regular football activities. Furthermore, controversy surrounds ANFA's upcoming leadership elections scheduled for March 26 in Dhapa, which reportedly lacked the necessary approval from the National Sports Council. And now it's time for the weather updates, first from Nepal and then across the world. Before winding up, let's have a quick reminder of the top stories of the day. Election Commission to certify PR lawmakers this Thursday. Final report for President Paudel to clear way for new government formation. 8 dead as pre-monsoon storms and lightning caused 20 million rupees in damages. Experts urge public to stay indoors during evenings. ILO report warns of employment risks as Nepal nears LDC graduation. Government urges to protect vulnerable sectors during the transition. At least 23 dead as coordinated suicide bombings rock Maiduguri during Ramadan. President orders security be beefed up. Israel claims assassination of Iran's national security chief and basic commander in Tehran strikes. Iran yet to respond. And tonight, decisive Champions League knockout match on the schedule. Chelsea and Manchester City fight for survival against continental leaders. And And that's it from News Hour. Do join us through our social media, and as well, do log into our official website www.nepaltelevision.com for the latest news and updates. Thank you for staying with us, and have a wonderful evening.